So, second.
Okay.
Bernie.
First. And we'll start with 32. Let me make sure I've got the right one. Yes, 32 East Islay. Any comments, corrections? 1676 Franceschi Road. .254 San Julian Road. And that was it for that agenda. Okay, and can we have a vote on the approval then? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And now we'll have the consent calendar, call for a vote for April 2nd, 2013.
So moved.
Okay,
I second.
and a second. Lisa?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The consent agenda for Monday, April 2nd, 2013. Item A, 1533 Shoreline Drive. It's granted review after final as submitted. Item B, 616 East Valerio Street was granted final approval as noted with conditions. And item C, 920 Camino Viejo Road was granted project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. And the items on consent were reviewed by Fred Sweeney and Jamie Pierce.
Thank you. And then we'll have a vote for the consent calendar for April 8th.
So moved. So.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
We had a first and a second. We just need a...
Oh, we needed to vote on the other. Sorry about that. All right, we have the vote for approval of the minutes for April 2nd. All in favor?
I'm sorry.
Aye.
Okay, and now, the consent agenda for
Now
today.
a first, now a first and a
First and
second
a
for the
So
April
moved.
8th.
Al?
Okay, there we go. We just skipped a little piece there.
That was Fred the first and Brian the
Yes,
second.
that's correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Consent agenda for today, Monday, April 8th, 2013. Item A, 442 Terrace Road. It's granted final approval as noted. Item B, 1210 Olive Street. It's granted project design approval with the NPO findings and final approval with comments. Item C, 981 Coyote Road. It's granted project design approval with the NPO findings and continued indefinitely to consent for final. Items were reviewed by Jim Zimmerman and Jamie Pierce.
Okay, thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And now I believe we have no announcements or staff, anything? Okay. And then we have number one item here today. We have a discussion on the Urban Forest Management Plan project with Jill Zachary. She's the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director.
Hi.
I'll turn it over to you.
Jill cannot be here. She'll probably be joining us a little bit later. My name is Mandy Burgess, also with Parks and Recreation. Jill is the project manager for this project. And like you said, I'm here to present the progress and the status on the Urban Forest Management Plan project. This project began in July. The Urban Forest Management Plan is a long-range plan to preserve and enhance the urban forest. So a 30 to 50-year really blueprint for what the forestry program will be doing. And the urban forest, we're defining it as all the trees within the city boundaries, and these are both public and private trees. So as I said, the project began in July. We've moved forward with a number of key tasks that include the development of a technical advisory committee. This is a 8-member panel, representatives from the Planning Commission, Street Tree Advisory Commission, Southern California Edison, to name a few. We've completed a tree canopy assessment and a baseline analysis. The baseline analysis really gathered all the tree-related policies and plan goals within plans related to trees, and looked also at other cities, what other cities have done in terms of an urban forest management plan. And we've also developed some key issues and some preliminary objectives and actions. And so what we're here today is to hopefully you had a chance to look over some of these key issues. We want to make sure that what we're looking at is comprehensive. Certainly if you have any key issues you'd like to put on the table, or if you see any that we've already listed that you would like to elevate in your own priority list, we would like those comments. So I'll give you some background first, though. But before I begin, the Technical Advisory Committee and department staff created a vision and mission statement. I'd like to share those with you. These help guide our planning efforts and the implementation of the plan. And the vision is this: Santa Barbara's urban forest is healthy and diverse and contributes to the community's economic, environmental, and aesthetic vitality. It is valued and cared for by the city and its citizens and reflects our horticultural heritage. So that's more the long-range vision, and then the mission is more the action, the doing part, and it's really reflects what what the program is currently doing. Preserve, protect, and enhance our trees, promote the benefits of trees, and foster a healthy and diverse urban forest. So as I mentioned, we did complete a tree canopy assessment. This is really baseline information about our tree population. It was used or conducted using GIS software, aerial imagery, and this type of assessment is a good tool for a few reasons. It's a cost-effective way to look at a large population, such as the size of a city. It's comparable between cities that have also done their own assessment. It's comparable within the city. You can look from neighborhood to neighborhood and see where you're deficient in tree canopy. And you can also track it over time. So should we want to do another tree canopy assessment, we can look and see, has our canopy expanded, shrunk, and where. We found that Santa Barbara has about a 25% tree canopy covering. This is the land area covered by the canopy of trees. So 25% of Santa Barbara's land is covered by the canopy of trees. And as you might imagine, there is variety within that. If you're just looking at residential areas, it can vary. You look at the Lower East Side, the Lower West Side, there's less canopy. You go to the Riviera, San Roque, a lot more canopy. Same with our parks and open space areas. They differ between parks. Our beaches, probably no surprise there, not many trees. There's not a lot of canopy. That environment doesn't support a lot of canopy. Somewhere like our neighborhood parks, there is a lot of canopy. And it goes on. Office, industrial areas, low. Public schools, fairly high. We've also done some initial outreach. These were some community workshops held at the end of January. This was our opportunity to present the project as well as provide them with information on the forestry program and tree preservation policies. But our main goal was to get some feedback back from the public as to their tree-related concerns. And we asked a series of questions to help format the discussion, and they're up here on the slides. How do they envision the urban forest, what they feel city priorities should be, and what they feel they can contribute back to the urban forest and to contribute to the health and preservation of the urban forest. 51 residents at the two meetings. They were the same meeting held 2 different days. And so we heard a variety of comments. I would say what's up here represents the kind of loudest of all of the comments. Certainly an increase for tree maintenance, a need for larger and more street trees, the larger canopy, the shading trees, and then a large outreach component, be it partnerships with other schools and agencies and nonprofits, but also information to and from the public in terms of just tree information and ways in which residents can continue to get engaged. At the tree workshops, we also provided a tree survey, and we received 25 back in just the workshops alone, but we wanted to expand that response, and so we put it online, used the online survey tool SurveyMonkey to help facilitate that, and went out to all of our e-subscribers, and we received 517 responses back from our tree survey. Again, it listed the same questions you saw as well as additional questions, and these are some of the most important components here. Staff report also has some information on the survey. Some of the most important tree issues include aesthetics, maintenance, tree health, tree protection, historic and specimen species. Top CD priorities included tree health and aesthetics, public safety, tree planting, tree maintenance, and tree protection. Ways residents feel they can contribute, maintaining and planting trees on private property, reporting problems, and understanding the policies. We also asked if residents have contacted the city about a tree-related issue, and 51% said they had. Given our pool of who we sent this out to, that's kind of not surprising. It is e-subscribers, those who are maybe a little bit more privy to what's going on. What was a little bit more surprising of that group was their familiarity with the tree preservation policies. 44% felt they were unfamiliar with the policies, 47% somewhat familiar, and 9% very familiar. So this tells us, this outreach component, again, big component to what we'll be developing. And so concurrent with our outreach efforts, we started compiling this list of key issues that we heard not only from the community, but also our department staff and other department staff, including community development and fire. And that's why we're here today. Again, we're going to various boards and commissions to make sure that this is a comprehensive list, that we haven't missed anything, and we certainly want to hear from you all today. So the issues have been categorized. Tree resource management, city trees as differentiated from private trees, and this is really the diversity, the age, the maintenance, any of our planting needs, our infrastructure constraints, those types of key issues. When we think of policy and planning, this will be the need to update the street tree master plan, the development of a park tree master plan, and then implementation of all the goals laid out in climate action plans, pedestrian plans, general plans. How do we implement those through this plan? Program funding, no surprise there. Like many programs, forestry has been hit hard. And how are we going to prioritize the funding of our goals and objectives? And then within city organization, there's always a need to better communicate and coordinate. And again, as I've said multiple times, the community involvement, how are we going to engage the community, and what outreach efforts are we going to use? Also included in the staff report are some preliminary objectives and actions. This is presented to you for early input and discussion. It's very draft. It's a kind of a way to guide you as to how some of these key issues might end up in a plan as being an objective with an action. And I'll continue on. Really our goal here today is make sure we've got all the key issues down, but I will continue on and just give you some examples of some of our objectives and actions. Tree resource objectives are really focused around maintaining, sustaining, and maximizing and enhancing the urban forest. Again, this is for the long run, for the 30 to 50 years. City organization, as I've said, funding, communication, coordination, and partnerships, how we're going to implement these actions. Policy and planning, integrate urban forest into other plans, and community involvement, public awareness and education, incentive programs, as an example. And so here's some example tree resource objectives. Maintaining trees to provide safety, health, and longevity. Provide sustainable tree canopy cover. Maximize canopy cover in areas that are deficient. Have an optimal age and species diversity. And some of the example actions we might find might come through the update of a street tree master plan, integrating street tree plans with land development and public infrastructure improvements, and developing tree resource management guidelines that balance tree preservation with solar access and views. So those are some examples there. City organization, some of the objectives might be to increase funding, improve interdepartmental communication and coordination. But some of the actions we have include identifying and obtaining external funding, and really starting to understand where our sources of funding are going to come from and for what actions, as well as implementing annual staff and even board and commission tree training or tree policy training. For policy policy and planning, again, it's this integration of the urban forest management plan with other plans and ensuring that the tree preservation ordinance reflect the urban forest management plan. We will go to council and ask that they adopt this by resolution, and we will need to update tree preservation policies reflecting that. For community involvement, there's a whole host of ways that we can get the community involved. These are some of the objectives, enhancing public awareness. Some of the ways we might do that are through adopt a tree programs, adopt a block programs, developing partnerships to get the word out and to expand funding, and technical assistance. Maybe it's incentive programs for our private homeowners to help with the tree planting, tree care, and the long term. We have visited several boards and commissions already. We'll continue to wrap that up throughout April. Our next steps will also include the draft goals, objectives, and actions in May and June, back to the community June, July, and then to council with the status report sometime in July. That wraps up my report. I'd love to hear any comments or field any questions from you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I have a question. Is there still like a memorial type, where people can get a tree as a memorial to someone who's passed on? Is that still in effect?
That program has been suspended at the moment. So this is a program in which you could purchase a plaque, maybe for a loved one or a loved one deceased, living, anything. That's been halted for a variety of reasons, and we hope that there can be some program like that continues in what it may not look the same as it is today, though.
Nice. Okay. Also, one of my pet peeves with our urban forest has been the way the street trees have been handled by Southern California Edison, and the absolute mutilation of trees that's gone on in their name. Is any attempt being made to hold them at bay, or at least make sure someone with the correct knowledge is with them? They claim to have arborists, certified arborists, and everything that take care of that, but I've just seen such hack jobs. It's just very upsetting to me. I wondered what you were doing about that, if anything.
So, great comment. It's been brought up many times. It's on our list of key issues. We do have a representative from Southern California Edison on our technical advisory committee, and our goal for those types of actions is multi-stepped. Being involved with Southern California Edison, but also the right tree, right place scenario. We would like to have a better understanding of where wires exist, where smaller trees need to be planted, and areas where our larger trees can be planted. So that will be part of the process and likely part of the update to the Street Tree Master Plan, a better designation list.
Great.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I do have a couple of questions. The old Street Tree Master Plan, even today as I was going around to some of the properties we needed to look at for design board, some of the existing urban canopy is a huge maintenance problem. Trees that were put in 30 or 50 years ago that take a lot of city time and money to maintain, and I guess before another urban forestry blitz, I would really like to see both the maintenance and the updating of any master plan issues be addressed. And I have a question about when you say horticulture to preserve the horticulture heritage of both public and private trees. I mean, what time frame are you referring to?
So the plan itself is a 30 to 50 year plan. It's the blueprint. So if we, well, let me back up for a minute. The vision statement, we call out this horticultural heritage because it is so prominent in our community. You know, we all know some of the history of some of our trees out there. So that is something we put into the vision with the intent of carrying that horticultural heritage through. We have species in our parks, some onesies and twosies, that if we don't start looking forward, those trees will be gone, and there's no replacement program. So that's some of what we're talking about when we talk about horticultural heritage. The time frame of the plan, again, is a 30, 50-year plan that will call out some actions to address something like that. It's not going to address it in the plan. It will guide us in ways that we need to address it, if that makes sense. So, for instance, you know, our parks have some very old, aging out species that were here that are part of that horticultural heritage. The plan would identify that we need to make a park management plan so that we are addressing those, addressing species concerns, age concerns, areas where we will go and replace and replant that can support a large tree like what we have in some of our parks.
Thank you. One last question. Will your plan address the eventual undergrounding of utilities?
We hope so, and the intent of this plan is to look forward to those, to address areas where there's current overhead that will be underground, so that may open up our opportunity to plant a larger canopy tree. So yes, we hope to be working with, as I say, Southern California Edison and many of the utility companies to have some of that forethought. That's the intent.
Thanks.
Yes.
I have several questions. I too am concerned about the behavior of Edison, and I think that needs to be dealt with. But another question I have is, how does your department interrelate with Public Works? And I'm talking specifically about sidewalk repair, curb repair, et cetera. How do you coordinate between what you're doing and what they're doing? How does that work?
That's a very good question. One that I have not myself been as involved in to maybe answer it as thoroughly as I can. I can tell you this: our arborist, Tim Downey, works with their department addressing infrastructure conflicts on both sides. That said, we understand and have put on our list of key issues that there can be better coordination of those issues. But
Okay. The reason I bring that to your attention, I wear a couple of hats. One is I'm president of the Upper East Association currently, as well as being a member of this board. And we see issues both at this board, and I see issues as the Upper East Association. And I've had in the last 2 weeks 2 very upset residents about how they are being addressed by City Public Works with regards to repair of the trees in the public parkway. And in fact, one commented, if that's the way the city's going to handle it, take out the trees, I don't want to have to deal with this. So that's the characterization and perception that some of those folks have, and I think that would be a huge hurdle for the community implementing any kind of plan. And the reason I say that, there is a perception that the residents is being penalized for the growth of their tree on their property that disrupts the sidewalk. They get a notice from Public Works that says, take care of this in 30 days or we're going to put a lien on your house. That's pretty, and I've seen the letters, you know, that's a pretty oppressive kind of relationship that Public Works has with the community. On the other hand, in the same block, we will see a tree that's well within the parkway that's causing buckled sidewalks, and yet that tree goes unanswered for many, many years. So I think that's a huge concern. That's going to be a big hurdle overcoming trying to implement a long-range urban forest plan. And you may end up with a city council chamber full of very disgruntled residents. So I think that's and you do, I notice you do have it on your key issues, but I think you need to move that up in terms of your priorities to address it. One of the questions I have, because I also noticed that, and we deal with it here on this board, is the issue of trees that can be characterized as hedges and also can be characterized as trees. And I'm thinking specifically of Eugenia. Eugenia, in fact, we have a block in the Upper East where the Eugenias are trees, and they're in the parkway. And they've been there for many, many years. They are in fact, buckling the sidewalk. On the other hand, we have Eugenias that are on private property. We have Pittosporum on private property that for many years are hedges, and then they become trees. So do you all have a way to how you define that? What's the break point in which that type of species becomes a tree and moves from a hedge?
So great questions and comments. The hedge tree issue is not one that we're really focusing on as a priority for the management plan at this point. I'm making notes and it will be discussed. But in terms of what is currently happening and how things are defined, a hedge, so if it looks like a tree, it's defined as a tree most likely. If it looks like a hedge, even though it's a tree species, if it's trimmed and cut like a hedge, it's treated as a hedge. And then those will be subject, if it's looks like a tree, if it's branched like a tree, 4 inches in diameter usually is kind of the
demarcation point.
Right. Especially if it's in a setback zone where that those trees are regulated by the city, and you remove it, then you're subject to city regulation. So that's currently what's on the books, and we haven't at this point addressed it as part of this plan.
Well, part of the reason I bring it up is, in addition just as a neighborhood issue, it's an issue that we deal with on this board on a weekly basis. We're at a point in the maturation of this city because we don't have new developments for inextensive purposes. We don't have new full tract of houses of 60 houses at a swap. We have mature neighborhoods that are evolving. In some cases, they're moving. And so what we're dealing here with is a lot of requests for second-story additions, and they become quite controversial. They're a real struggle for us. But as part of that second-story addition, we then also start running into the on-property trees. And because we have to kind of look at the whole picture. We have to look at hedges and trees and second floors where there weren't second floors. Hedges and trees as they deal with views, either blocking views for privacy or not being there so that they can be open up to views, etc. So I think one of the things that I see, at least from my perspective on this board, is that's a real struggle. So I think that as you develop this urban canopy, if there is some recognition that those are going to be continue to be progressing issues as neighborhoods mature, as we go from single-story tract houses that were built in the 60s or the 70s, they're now being upgraded to 2 stories, and they're in neighborhood canopies, and I think, Lisa, you were referring to one that we'll have to look at later this evening, where they're in a community where now that's changed. It's no longer the little 10-gallon tree that was planted in the parkway. That tree is now 30 years old. It's a real issue we have to deal with here. I think maybe even more so than maybe ABR or Historic Landmarks Commission, because we're dealing with private residences and private property right. And so it's a real challenge for us.
I would just add, residents built in the 50s, too.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enlightening.
I would just like to make sure that the public knows how to become an e-subscriber, and you mentioned that. Can you let them know, and so it'll be on the record here?
I believe, I have not gone through the process myself, but I believe you can go right on the city's website, the homepage, and there is a link to be an e-subscriber. I believe if you can choose also if you just want to be an e-subscriber for a particular board or commission, newsletter, so I think there are some
Okay,
options.
so SantaBarbaraCA.gov, and then they go to trees or to find you?
The forestry program does have a website. It's lengthy. It's nothing I could just spill out right now. But if you were to type in Santa Barbara Forestry Program simply in Google or any search engine, we would come up.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay,
Michelle and Denise, I forgot to mention earlier, I need to step down from the first two projects.
okay.
So
Thank you.
I'm going to do that.
Anyone else need? No, okay. I do? Okay. I didn't know. Okay, then we'll start with our first project, 32 East Islay Street. This is for, here, again, for a project design review. Project design approval is requested. The project requires compliance with Staff Hearing Officer Resolution Number 1313 and requires compliance with Tier 2 stormwater management. Prior to final approval, it was last reviewed by the Single Family Design Board on January 28th, 2013. And we have our minutes here, so Jill will read those in.
Madam Chair, if I could just make a
Yes.
quick announcement on this project. This project was originally scheduled for the last agenda on March 25th.
Yes.
It was canceled or postponed to today's hearing due to the loss of a quorum on the 25th. And I just wanted to point out on the agenda versus the project summary I just handed out to you, the square footages have been adjusted slightly, and it has all been reduced. And this is as of the record that was submitted by Paul, by the applicant, on March 12th. It was just a staff error that we didn't correct it on the agenda, so my apologies. And then I also wanted to just point out, too, that I gave you an additional packet there that has the staff hearing officer resolution. I've highlighted the modifications that were requested, and I've highlighted on the opposite page the approval, conditions of approval. And just for your record, again, for the project summaries, I've printed up the minutes of each prior review by this board.
Thank you. Okay, can you go ahead and read that?
Sure. This is the action of the January 28, 2013 of this board. There was a motion made to continue indefinitely to the staff hearing officer and return to the full board with comments, with the following comments. One, the board is supportive of the proposed hedge height modification. The board would encourage the staff hearing officer to approve the 12-foot hedge height as it is in keeping with the Upper East neighborhood, and removing it would impose a privacy issue for both the applicant and the adjacent neighbors and a design challenge for the applicant. Two, board is supportive of proposed modification to rebuild the garage with conforming interior dimensions. Proposed modification is aesthetically appropriate and does not pose a consistency issue with single-family residence design guidelines. Three, study the roof connection design between the garage and the residence. Action was taken on a motion by Miller, seconded by Sweeney on a 6-0 and 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps I should just read this now so that the board is aware of the changes, or?
Sure, you can read that.
Okay,
Project description.
Yeah, as part of the project description, I want to read into the record here the changes that occurred. There was a proposal to construct, this time a 217 square foot one-story addition and a new 405 square foot two-story addition to an existing one-story 1,470 square foot single-family residence. The proposal includes the demolition of an existing detached 270 square foot one-car garage and construction of a new attached 317 square foot one-car garage. A new 45 square foot second floor balcony is proposed. The proposed total of 2,409 square feet located on a 6,080 square foot lot is 89% of the required floor-to-lot area ratio. So we're a little more up to speed on that. Okay, can your...
My name is Paul Zink, and I hope staff has drawings. Because I didn't bring any. So to begin with, staff went over the square footages on the cover sheet. Is just more information about how the square footages were determined in a more technical format. And then I also gave the computer printouts that proved the key line parameters of the square footage. So the project that's in front of you today is 89% of the allowable FAR. One of the other exercises that I went through is I went through and re-verified all of the 20 closest homes information. So if you have any questions about that, I can answer them, or if staff has any concerns as well. The projects in front of you today, one minor change that was made at the staff hearing officer was that she asked that we move this garage an additional foot away from the rear property line. The original garage is at 1'8". We were proposing 3 feet, and she says, if you can be 3 feet away from the property line, why can't you be 4 feet or 5 feet or 6 feet? The reason why I didn't want to be more is I've always been trying to maintain, we can go over that if you would like, always wanted to maintain this porch. To me, that was always a design consideration, so I maintained this overall width. So that's why we moved the garage an additional 12 inches. And that staff hearing officer was fine with increasing that by 12 inches. We've always had this additional 2 24-inch box deciduous trees. I list 3 different varieties. Right down here I have the cut sheets on that information if you're interested in seeing. If you have a specific one that you really don't want us to use, I'm open to it. At this point I was just going to give my client the prerogative to drive around town and tell me which tree he liked the most. For preliminary, I didn't think it was necessary to figure that out. It was asked by Mr. Sweeney at the previous meeting he was curious to see the detail for the railing. What's important about this railing, once again, it is only 3 feet, a 3-foot balcony versus being greater than 3 feet. And then it's perpendicular to the property line, but we are 15 feet from the rear property line. This wall here, that's the 3 foot wide or 3 foot 4 inches, is going to be 5 feet tall. Everything else is 42 inches high. And how I turn the corner is on a normal section, I'm going to have a board, and then I'm going to have my 4-inch space. And then on the side, I'm going to tighten it up and put an extra board in there, and then bring that above the second section, so this horizontal line remains the same at the 42 inches. And then I have backed again to my 4-inch space. So that was the transition. So my corner post will be taller, and then that's the intermediate post. And I actually have 3 copies of that. Here's for that. Here's for this. I have a color board, just so you can see. I've always said that I was to match existing, and what is existing, so that is existing. Took my color swatches out there. And I have a picture of the house, too. The roof doesn't quite... The roof in the photograph looks more grayer than here, but it is this kind of a chestnut brown, whatever they happen to call it. So, and it has the white trim, and we have the dark wood around the windows. We're going with an all-wood window, Sierra Pacific, or it would be a TM, something like that. So we're going to match existing for the color scheme. I have cut sheets on the door. The garage door itself is a simple carriage door, and it's going to be beaded panels. And then for the light fixtures, we're going to go with the dark bronze. I have a wavy glass, and there'll be an LED bulb on the inside. And then at one time, I would like to have this kind of a light fixture at the garage door. What I would do is tuck it up underneath the eave, and so you can see in the site plan where it's located. It would be underneath the eave, and it would be on a motion sensor. And the plate height actually here would be 7 foot 11 inches, not 8 foot 1. I was wrong because I have to match the existing plate height. So that would be underneath this area. And then this light fixture, I have one located at this door, and on the second floor, I happen to locate it here versus one on each side of the door. And I can show you that on elevation. corner away from the property line. And that is all, unless there's specific questions that I can address.
Okay. I'd like to open it up for public comment at this point. Is there anyone who would like to come forward on this project? Okay, then we'll close public comment, and we'll leave it to the board now for questions.
Madam Chair, I have a question. In our last action, let's see, we read it says the board would encourage the staff officer to approve the 12-foot hedge height as in keeping with the so forth and so on. I watched, just out of happenstance, happened to see this when it was on the staff hearing board's televised issue, and I may have missed some of that. But was that issue addressed?
Absolutely not. I was told by staff that they would not support it, and I would be going into a slaughter. And so I didn't stand a living prayer to ask for a 12-foot high hedge, even though I had the support of the design review board. I apologize.
So without that, and the hedge, as I recall, was existing,
It's an existing...
more or less, and it's more or less 12 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. And so my question is, well, there are two questions. One is if you proceed, given the staff hearing officer did not address this and did not support it, will you have to take it down to 8 feet? Is that
The way the plans were submitted to the city was that we were to maintain an 8-foot hedge.
Okay.
Because there's no way staff would support our modification or a modification to increase a hedge to 12 feet because it's a state or a city-wide precedence that's begun.
okay? And then second issue is if it goes to 8 feet, I know there was some discussion in our last several meetings with you about your client's willingness to put in a fence in the
Correct.
same area where the hedge is. And where is that at this point?
We have on the plans that we are proposing to put an 8-foot high fence. The 8-foot high fence will be built on our property. The spacing of the posts would be based upon the location of the existing hedge and its roots and its trunk. The construction would have to occur from the neighbor's property, so we need cooperation. And if we don't get that cooperation, then we'll have to figure out something else. But at this point, I think both parties want to have a fence and both parties like the hedge. So I think there's mutual cooperation and advantageousness to maintain a hedge and see that a solid wood fence gets built.
Okay. And then I guess one last question, because you're here for
Project
project design approval. You don't have to show us all the details. That fence, what type of fence are you thinking about? Is it a wood plank fence?
It would be a wood plank fence.
So some sort of wood plank, 1x12s or 1x8s or 1x6s or something like that.
Because of the height, it would probably be 1x8s.
Okay.
It wouldn't be less than that, 1x12, something.
Okay. So, but it's some kind of plank fence.
It would be a plank fence.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Comments?
I also forgot to add, item 3 was the garage connection and how I altered that. I'm trying to find it on the plans now. I added the little pop out here, which is on this side, which was encouraged because we had this roof come across and this kind of roof, and then there was, I always had a second story element here to try to sort of ease that connection, and then now it looked too stark between the 2-story and the 1-story, so now I've got this mid-story thrown in here to sort of ease that transition. That was the item number 3 from the minutes of the last meeting.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is actually a question for those of us who were here at the last round of this, because I thought I remembered that we had a neighbor or two here that was maybe behind and maybe had some...
Where's your microphone?
Yeah, it says on.
Oh, you have to open it up.
Oh, open it. Thanks. Thank you. So, am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I just was wanting to clarify if that was now had been resolved, or if it was the same concern, or if you had talked to them and if you had come to an agreement, or...
The neighbor happens to be here in the hearing room. They chose not to speak at this the staff hearing officer. The 10-day appeal period expired. They're here today. They chose not to speak. That's fine. There's enough letters on the record to express what their opinion is. We have worked as much as I feel we could with the client, or with the neighbor and my client, in reducing the size of the project, minimizing some of the windows, but not all of them. We minimized the deck. We provided these 2 extra 24-inch box trees to provide additional privacy. So it might not have satisfied all of their needs, but it is much better of a project than when we first began.
In terms of neighbor guidelines, and so we appreciate that you're doing that.
Thank you.
So it also looks like you've gotten your modifications approved.
Yes.
So it is now to the board to determine whether or not we can move this project forward.
You want to just read for the record the condition of approval? Just,
Yes.
I think Mr. Zink already went
It'd
over
be
that,
right
though.
here, starting here, correct? The following. Okay, said approval is subject to the condition that the reconstructed garage shall be located at least 4 feet from the south property line. So that's what you have?
Yeah,
And that's right here.
that is correct.
Right, okay, and that's what's shown, so that complies. So who would like to make a movement?
Okay.
Okay, all right.
I move that we give the project design approval based on, we need NPO, the NPO findings that the project is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and has worked with the neighbors to communicate, and is using quality materials, and that you have consistently been attempting to work down the square footage and percentages as requested of you, and that you are in keeping with the good neighbor guidelines. And do I need to mention about the modification?
You don't have to.
And that we approve the project as submitted.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second to that? I'll second. Okay, and all in favor?
No, Madam,
Yes, under
point
discussion.
of discussion, please. 2 things is, and this is directed at staff. I appreciate the issue of staff not supporting a 12-foot hedge. But I would like at some point for staff to come back to us, I assume it's zoning, and share with us what the issue is with hedges. My sense is this is a much bigger issue than just this project. In talking with some city council individually over a period of time, my sense is the council is very reluctant to deal with this issue of hedges, hedge heights, both on property lines and on interiors of properties, et cetera. So maybe we can have staff come to us and kind of give us an overall view of where they think this whole hedge issue is at the moment. Because one of the concerns I have is we continually put conditions on projects. Hedges have to be at 42 inches or feet or whatever. And quite frankly, everybody in this town knows that, okay, you just cut it back, you get your building permit, inspector goes away, and you let the hedge grow back up. So it's almost self-defeating, in my opinion. So I'd really like to see what the big picture is, long range, from staff is on that issue.
Thank you. I will attempt to address a couple things just real briefly. As the board knows, and if the public knows, there has been a temporary restriction on the ordinance. Typically, the ordinance says it limits heights to 42 inches in height along the front property line or within the 10 feet of the front setback and adjacent to the driveway, and 8 feet in other locations. The temporary suspension went in effect probably about 3-4 years ago, and at this point there has been no direction to do anything different at this point. The suspension is specifically in effect to the anywhere outside of the driveway area where it might be a visibility concern. The council had redirected staff, as a public concern brought to the council by the public. Public took it to council. Council said that staff should re-study this issue. At this time, we haven't had, as far as I know, the resources to try and change it. So, but I will make a note to the zoning supervisor that maybe we should bring this back to the board for a further discussion.
Thank you. And then just the second issue, and it's really to follow up on the comment made about neighborhood compatibility and discussion with the neighbors. And in this particular case, as you recall, we had a lot of concern about this particular project. Its issue with privacy, both to the adjacent property, et cetera. And this project, in my mind, is one of the examples of how this board struggles with keeping privacy from the applicant's viewpoint, privacy from the adjacent neighbor's viewpoint. The fact is that this is, again, a neighborhood to some degree in maturity, where we're getting some homes that were single-story now going to two-story. But it also is in a neighborhood where there's a lot of older homes that are already two-story. And in this case, there were adjacent homes on the other property lines looking into the neighbor that had concern about privacy, already looking in there. So this is, kind of the third side. So I'd like the public to know that we really struggled with this, that we looked at it in detail. We took a site visit. We walked through the site. We walked in the adjacent neighborhood, neighbor's yard, et cetera, et cetera. These are not easy issues.
Thank you. So was that a second?
Oh, is that a second? No, second. No, there was a second for discussion. Yeah, somebody.
It's actually the chair that seconded it.
I seconded it. That's right, excuse me.
I'll support your second.
We
Anyway,
support my
that's the
second then.
discussion.
Okay, wonderful. Then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Design approval.
Thank you very much.
Well, yes, we have a 10-day appeal period to this approval.
Madam Chair, board members, I also just wanted to clarify for the record, was this continued indefinitely to consent or full board for final? And want anything
what
other than
would
just the
be-
typical final details?
Would the motion maker like to continue it to full board or consent?
I think it's good.
Pardon me? Full board? Full board. Okay, so you continue indefinitely to the full board.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that's the only copy we have.
Here's the rest. Oh, and this also goes with that. Okay, next item on our agenda is 104 Ontario Hills Lane. This is project design review. This was last reviewed on March 11th, 2013. And project design approval is requested. It requires compliance with Tier 3 stormwater management prior to final approval. Hello? Introduce yourselves, please.
My name is Paul Zink,
Sarah Paschke.
and our landscape architect is waiting for drawings to show up. He has some color drawings that he would like to show. I do have one set that's on the bottom of this. It's black and white that didn't print very well.
Okay.
So he's on his way.
He's here. They was just waiting for them to bring them the drawings.
Okay. And we'll have the last board meeting minutes read so we can get up to snuff where we were, where we ended last time.
This is the action of our last review of this project on March 11th. Following motion was made for continued 2 weeks to the full board with the following comments. The board had a positive comment regarding the simplified architectural style. The board would encourage the applicant to resubmit a schematic level landscape plan. 3, study width, height, and landscape composition of the walkway element from the drive circle to the front door. 4, on the south elevation, study composition of dining room windows and entry door. Consider making one of these elements asymmetrical. 5, study small windows on the second floor. Consider a single casement without mullions. 6, study introducing natural light into the staircase. 7, study the proportion of the trellis off the master bedroom and its distance from the second bedroom wall. 8, study design of the first floor window. 9, in the north elevation, study upper roof arrangements and location of downspouts. 10, study proportions of columns and arches. Action was taken on a motion by Sweeney, seconded by Bernstein. A 5-0 motion carried.
The first thing I'll tell you is that we got rid of the second floor. We kept the vaulted ceiling that was over the living room area, but at one time we had a second-story man cave kind of thing over the garage area, and that has been removed from the project. Our FAR is now less than 85% of the allowable. So there was a significant reduction in the square footage. There was not a reduction in the actual building footprint. The site plan I'll briefly go over, and then we'll have the color drawings later. We have a weaving sidewalk that comes up here to the front. We got rid of this element that came here, and we have the drive. The garages are still the same. The backyard has a more formal area that is going to be utilized by every day, and then this is just going to be more natural with some paths and trails. And then the front entry, there was no change to that. The landscape drawings have a picture of the whatever these are called, piers, pilings, and the actual gate. Floor plan wise, the floor plan change that we've made was I simplified the dining room area. It's not symmetrical anymore, but I minimized the corner posts floor plan wise, and then I added this cute little window over here to the side, which is our wine room. And then there's a pop out happens to here that changes this roof, and then we got rid of the second floor, like I said. That's about all on the floor plan to show you. I want to go over the elevations. This is the front elevation. We did not like the look of the asymmetrical. We did play with some ideas. We ended up pulling this up, pushing this down in order to break up those two masses. That's why this is actually above this area. We have the single glazing for the clear stories like was requested. This is the little cutesy window that's in the wine cellar. In the back, we changed the proportions. These three are all equal, and I got rid of the downspouts that bisected those columns, and instead I have overflows. I do have the downspouts with the leader boxes shown. This is 1/4 inch scale. Dimensions work. The windows are all standard window sizes. So I was able to take the hand sketchy stuff into the computer. This is the side elevation. This is the master bath area. This is the front study, and then this is the garage. When we lost the two-story element actually I was utilizing it to help me break up the masses, but now I have this roof here, and the planes are broken, and I have a single garage door here that's a double, and then a single with an arch face with a trellis going over it. Color scheme wise, a client likes having the trellis over the garage door. That was a look that they showed me early on in the design. They also showed me some pictures. They had a blue shutters, and I love it. So we're going to go with a bronze anodized for the windows. We have a medium brown for the exposed rafter tails where they occur, as well as for the garage door and the trellis. We have a two-piece Tuscan red clay tile, and this is kind of a medium brown. So that's our color scheme. And landscape-wise, I cut through the building, so all the sections are here, so everything works three-dimensionally-wise. It's always important for me to know that my overall heights work, and I've got the insulation and the heights, mechanical, and all that kind of stuff working out. I always start with sections as odd as it sounds, and then I look at the landscape guy flipped his site plan the other way, so it did print pretty well. So here we have the drive, we have paved pattern. This is his more formal area, and like I said, the path coming up here. This is an outdoor fire pit. Always important for us was this outdoor dining area with a fireplace. And this is his path here, and then here's the entry. And you missed the color drawings, but oh well.
It's all right. Tells the story. Thank you.
That's my presentation.
Okay. Right now I'll open up for public comment on this project. Is there anyone who would like to step forward in 2 minutes? No, I see no one, so I'll close public comment and open up for questions from the board on this project. Yes, John.
How are you holding up the trellis for the garage doors?
He doesn't show it, but I have 2 posts here. They would be 8x8 posts with an 8x12 going across. And I have them actually 3 feet, so they're actually in this plane, the plane of this wall.
Do you have that on the enlarged floor plan? Or?
No, I don't. Well, yeah, they'd love to see your color drawings.
One right there, Mike.
That's the front, and then I did show it on the
how
side.
How
on
far did the posts come out?
You said 3 feet.
Right here. Maybe even 2.5 feet.
It looks really heavy there.
If it's too heavy, I can always make it smaller.
Well,
I'm trying to make it beefy.
I'm thinking if you could maybe use some corbels, some angled supports holding it up instead of having the post stick out from the door. It seems kind of,
The 45 kicker thing.
yeah. You could do something nice with the detail on the
The goal is to have a
edges.
vine grow up it, so we'd start at the root base and then go up versus... But yeah, I hear what you're saying about going with the kicker. We can look into that.
Save some wear and tear on automobiles.
Okay?
Okay, would you like, should we see, would you introduce yourself and
Now it is.
you might...
Lane Goodkind, landscape architect.
come over this direction and we'll put it out there.
Here's just a planting theme, plant palette.
Maybe we'll have to be on camera, so. But anyway, this is giving us a nice overview of the plant life. Okay.
Let's start with the hardscape plan. Let's see. Got that right there.
So
Back in
get
here.
everybody set here.
Yeah, there's 3 sets. I didn't have time to organize. There's one on hardscape. There's another one.
Want to use this one here?
Yeah, that's fine. The idea is to have all really, sandstone-y, warm tone materials, either a paver or stamped concrete, depending on budget, which is a slightly darker material. And then this would be a chip seal, where it's flat enough up here, and then some more hard surface right at the base of the garage. And then this would be something of similar, similar palette. A couple set of stairs leading up to the front door, and some sandstone boulders. There's a fire pit in the backyard surrounded by a small area of turf, with some access to the back where there'd be a row of fruit trees. So that's what that purpose that is serving. We need to have at least one retaining wall back there. We're hoping we can get it down to 3 feet tall. But that's, the grading operation to create the pad. And then the agrarian fence that all these lots have already used, that's the neighbor's fence all along here as well as here. So we're just repeating that in the front and then adding this kind of low-key, slightly agrarian wood and stone gate at the driveway entrance. So that's it. It's pretty simple. Planting palette you saw, and there's the list. And the idea is to have it be as obviously drought tolerant and regionally appropriate as possible. Using a C-Novus ground cover. There's already a patch of it here that I don't know if it's homeowners association or what, but it occupies this sort of bulb out. So I'm just repeating that. And there's a couple large eucalyptus trees in the back. I'm just leaving that mulch underneath those. I'm not bothering to plant at all. So rock rose, ceanothus, rosemary, oaks, Venus marina, and 2 jacaranda trees in the back, with a couple drought-tolerant palms in the back as well. And
Thank you. Okay, any questions from the board?
Back on the elevations.
Here they are.
Your thought on, where is it? That would be the east elevation. Yeah, the circle is that right at the surface? Is it set in?
It's gonna
what
be
are
a
you thinking the details going to look like?
It'll be a molding trim on the outside of the plaster. It's not going to be a window, and if we do grill work or something over it, but it's going to be surface applied.
So there's not a window there.
And it had to do with the way I laid out the trusses on the interior,
Yeah, I saw.
and the cane post and things like that, the ridge beam.
Okay. And then just one line on landscaping, there was mention of I assume some kind of vine over the trellis at the garage. Is that
He doesn't know about that. I added that late in the game.
You're thinking that's a trumpet vine or something?
Something that'd be appropriate.
Okay. Right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
For staff, first of all, just out of curiosity, just because we sat through 30 minutes of the tree whole thing, did this subdivision have a street tree?
They're already in there.
That one section that he made reference to with the Ceanothus, that pocket was done by the original developer when the road was put in. There's a large oak there.
There's oaks. They put in oaks.
So that's the street tree, the oaks?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious. Okay, now I have kind of a dumb question. Can you explain, this is great, and we really appreciate it, but I'm just trying to think ahead, and so you reduced the square footage, but you kept the same building footprint.
Correct.
Can you explain how you do that?
Okay, when I had the first floors here, and then the husband says, I want a man cave, and I want to spend $50
Yeah.
a square foot and build it up here. And we're going to build something to say 300 square feet on top of here. But in reality, the man cave above the garage is going to come in at like $300 a square foot because of the footings and everything. So then when we did our math on the budget, we realized that we're spending more money than we really want to because we want to spend money elsewhere on the property. So we removed that second story, but the first floor doesn't change. The number of bedrooms on the first floor, the living room, the office, the kitchen,
Okay,
all that remains the
I
same.
thought this and then plus that, so then it was that, but you took that away.
We just took it 100%
Yeah,
away.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Do you have any plans to remove the roof drainage from, or take it on-site rather than, it looks like it's going off-site at this point?
100% of the drainage will stay on site because we're Tier 3.
Tier 3.
Oh,
And
good.
it's not a problem. The way our site is located right by the road is our lowest section. We'll be able to have a water retention area.
And
Great
is that shown in
It's
the
not
note?
shown
Did I
on the-
miss that?
It's not shown in the plans. We didn't want to start that work, but
Okay.
it'll be in this zone down here. This is our lower section, and so that'll affect his landscaping, which I didn't tell him about. But because we really don't know how big of an area it's going to be, but the water garden kind of thing would be right here.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
I'm going to comments.
Comments?
Let me say this, I think this approach of the house has come a long way since we first saw it. So I compliment on your design effort to get it there. So these comments are basically based on my own idea of aesthetics for this type of architecture. You certainly could leave the house the way it's exactly drawn right now. But for me, I'm a little disappointed about the composition here. I think you're kind of getting close, but you're not there yet. This could be so much more in terms of a really unique composition for this house that really would set it off, and I just don't think you're there yet. So that's a comment. And then I think that the proportion of these windows still look a little too big.
Oh, I made them larger.
Yeah. I don't know, they just seem like they need to come in a little bit. I just harken back to, the George Washington Smith, Lord of Riggs approach to Spanish hacienda design. And then the other comment would be on the little, on the east elevation, this little epaulet or whatever it's called. I think if you're going to do that, you really have to do it. What you've drawn there now looks just, there's so much space on that wall. If you're going to do it, really do it. Don't, it's just kind of a little dimple right now.
Okay.
If you're really going to do it, then I think proportionally that ought to have some muscle to it.
Okay.
I would much prefer if you figured out how to get some glass in it, make a window, and bring some natural light into that ceiling. But that's you and your client's decision. And I too would support Jim's comment about maybe trying to get rid of these posts and doing a corbel there. Oh, excuse me, I have just one clarification. I'm looking here, and I don't see on your little list here, but you said that this wood, is that a stain or is that a paint?
It'd be semi-solid stain.
Okay. Yeah, it is, just not. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, this architecture detail, but you know where you have your clay tile wrapping over? You were planning on scratching it?
I would
To
love
get
to
a
go.
little-
I would love to get these little
Yeah.
pieces lines in there. It's a question having to do with the budget. Now that I save money somewhere else, I'd like to reintroduce the little hooks right here. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
It's
I
just a
would.
very light trowel
I
frame.
think we can make that happen. I just had it off the plans for now.
And could we look at a section again through the great room? I thought maybe the comment that the windows were too big, maybe the roof should come down a slight bit. So maybe you could look at the volume in the room. The windows in your section look smaller than in the elevation. Is that?
The sections are at 316, so I can fit more per sheet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Any other comments? Question? Were we on comments? Yes, we were. I know. I have to comment that I don't personally find these windows to be too big. If you're going to do this and get the light in there, I mean, I think they're great. I think that's going to be stunning in there. Cathedral-like.
Well, did we say eliminate the panes in those
Yeah,
windows?
because I did have, I bisected it.
Yeah.
And then I did have them drawn with just one set of horizontals, and then I went back and looked at the draft minutes, and I thought, oh, crap. So then I erased them all. So that's why they're all just a rectangle. I can go either way. I can study adding a horizontal in there.
Usually in those windows, it would be a...
Yeah.
Well, that's what I had originally.
Oh.
Originally I had something like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah,
they said
it
the
gives
minutes.
it a nice look.
So then I drew it like this, thinking, okay, at least I'll do this. And I thought, you know what? No, let's just go with this. This makes it easy to clean. But this is what I had at the previous meeting.
This almost makes it look smaller, does it
Yeah,
not?
it does.
It sort of shrinks them down a
It
bit.
does.
when Yeah.
My issue is I just look at this architecture and I just know what feels right, and right now, to me, it doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not there yet, but that's my own view of what this architecture ought to look like.
I like the panes in there, but
Yeah.
I think it goes with the...
How about I discuss it with the owner and see what they would like to have, if it's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. If not, does someone want to craft a motion?
Could we see the floor plan again?
Yeah, and then if we can decide if we're returning to full board or back to...
On the... I think maybe, I think one of the problems would be maybe, this is coming in and just dying in to the entrance. Did you have that pushed out a foot and a half or so originally?
Before, yes, I had something that looked like that.
Yeah,
So I had a little dog leg here.
I like that look better. You know, right now it's the roof, the two roofs coming together there isn't.
Well, there's two different plate heights.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, where I was getting into trouble was I'm simplifying the plan because my previous one had a whole bunch of these little breakups,
Right.
and I had them all over the place, and I liked that look, how I was doing stuff, and so now I decided to pull back and just make this the simplest perimeter.
I'm with you, I kind of like it popped
Yeah,
out
I do.
further. I think it
I
makes it stand
I
out.
think you need to define the corner a little more, you know?
To pull that forward, and a foot and a half isn't going to kill the square footage and it'll add a little architectural character.
Don't you think?
I
Don't you
agree.
think so?
I agree.
One additional question, how are you going to handle sun in that room? That's directly south, correct?
Yeah. It has to be with interior shades. 'Cause I've always wanted to see, I was trying to have a great courtyard in the front with some trees, and that when you're in this dining room, you're actually looking out onto this courtyard area. So there are no overhangs. It has to be done either from exterior, let's say olive trees in the courtyard, or interior coverings.
So, yeah, because that room's going to take a beating.
Yeah. The other change I made from previous is I narrowed up these things, and my envision was to have these as wooden posts. And this lower section, instead of having this as plaster, but if I made the windows a little bit smaller, then I can make the corners plaster.
Well, I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
for project design approval. I feel it has consistency in appearance, compatibility with the neighborhood, and has a quality of architecture and materials.
It's not to scale.
Landscape plan, I think, looks great, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the good neighbor guidelines.
So, so we're giving this project design approval and to come back to full board or to?
I think full board would be
Okay.
would be good.
Since there are a couple little design issues left, we'll come back to full board. And
That would be maybe project some comments about the design or
do we have a second?
Color board.
I was here a moment ago.
What were the items that you wanted them to study to get into the motion?
Right, so there were some certain things that the,
I'd like, well, I shouldn't say I, but study the dining room, connection between the entrance and the dining room, and the scribing on the gable ends of the tile.
Scribing, yes.
the trellis.
Is that one item? I'm not following.
There are
Is
two
that one
different
item?
items.
And
The
study
posts, getting rid of the
the
posts.
possibility of putting angles instead of bringing the posts out. Maybe lighten that beam up a slight bit
Over the garage.
On the
over
west
the garage.
elevation.
And then there was a comment about this feature. You want to include that in your motion?
Do you want to study it?
Oh, of course, not a problem. I'll work on that.
See what else you could do there?
Study
I
this.
understand the truss, the truss situation there, where
Yeah.
it's right back.
Put the high roof element on the east and west elevations.
A separate item?
Yes, that's the circular applique.
Truss element?
No, the circular applique at the high roof walls on the east and west elevations.
Okay. And that's a continuation to the full board?
Indefinite.
Indefinite?
I'll second.
And we've got a second by Bernie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Okay, thank you. One landscape plan and one hardscape plan. Let's see, I've got this, but I'm going to hardscape version as well. And even your pretty pictures as well. Let's get the whole kit for the doodle. Oops. Thank you so much. How are you? Thank you very much. And do you have the... Okay, 448 Allen Road. This is a concept review. It's a new item. We have a proposal to demolish an existing one-story, 1,529 square foot single-family residence and 329 square foot detached carport and construct a new one-story, 1,645 square foot single-family residence and an attached 434 square foot two-car garage. The proposal involves 830 cubic yards of grading. The proposed total of 2,079 square feet located on a 10,018...
Not right.
What's that?
She's got the wrong one.
Oh, okay. 10,018 square foot lot is 56% of the maximum floor to lot area ratio. The project includes planning commission review for a coastal development permit. This is a revised application to replace the prior two-story proposal. It's comments only. The project requires environmental assessment and planning commission review of a coastal development permit. Could you introduce yourselves, please?
Hi, my name is Kurt Magnus. I'm the architect.
I'm Michael Merrill, the owner.
I'm Chuck McClure.
Okay. Welcome. And your presentation, please.
So I don't know if you guys remember this project or not. There was a previous house design for this parcel that had some issues with this creek setback. It's down there by Henry's Royal Borough Creek. Goes right behind it there. And so what we've done is we've reduced the square footage from the previous design in order to make it fit within all the setbacks that were put upon it. So before it was a partial two-story, and now it's just a one-story house. Before we were there were these existing jacaranda trees on the street. We're going to be removed. We're going to keep those now. The project's kind of funny. It was like probably the last holdout when the housing tract was built, and so it was much lower than everything around when they put in the roads for the tract in the 60s, and so it's kind of sunk in a hole. So what we have to do is bring it up. And so there's a fair amount of fill, but what it's doing is just basically kind of filling in and bringing it to grade as if it would have been in the housing development originally. So it's shingle-sided and standing seam metal roof. It's got a clear-story element over to bring some light in. The neighborhood is basically a bunch of 60s tract houses, all 1- and 2-story heights. But there'll be this big jacaranda tree right in the front yard, and then off to the side there. You've done some extensive landscape plans. If you want to, this is all the grading stuff.
It's just real simple. In the front yard, it's just kind of a typical residential landscape to match the rest of the street, although it needs to be dry with the new rules and everything. And then in the back, we've got these 3 patios, a tiny piece of lawn, and then we're all into this creek's restoration type stuff. So real simple, and I think it hits all the bases. Look at creeks and the dryscape, etc.
Well, the paving has to be,
Permeable.
permeable. It's tier 3. We have these. I don't know. What did Dale call them? Anyway, the water's being collected and put into these kind of like dry well kind of things that are buried in the.
I think they're
I
detailed
know
on
just
plans.
what they are.
They're
because
detailed.
We just
had to
did
do-
those for a project
Yeah.
I did, so I know the NDS
I think they're on
stack
page 4
wells, dry
of his
wells.
plan.
He likes
Yeah.
those.
Well, I
The
guess they
NDS
do the
flow.
job, is what they.
Yeah, they do.
And then there's a... There we
There
go.
they are.
They're buried. You can't see them. There's landscape all over them. When if it does overflow, it kind of bubbles up.
They percolate up.
Yeah, it perks them.
That's a good way to retain water.
It's like a cistern.
Trash can with holes.
A lot of gravel in it. The hole that you put dig for these is humongous, however, it's
Yeah.
pretty big.
But yeah, so it's just a simple gable end or gable roof profile, a clear story, white trim.
I don't see anyone in the audience for public comment, so I will open and close it, and then, I will not close the public comment. We may have some letters. Michelle?
I just wanted to read into the record, I received a phone call from Eddie Harris with the Santa Barbara Urban Creeks Council. He just wished to express his desire for the project to minimize impacts to Arroyo Creek and, if possible, where possible, encourage the project to make improvements to the landscape along the creek.
Well, it certainly looks like
That's what we're doing.
Chuck has done that.
Yeah, we had many discussions with
George, Bottom. Yeah. We've been down this road.
Yeah, it looks like you're addressing that. All right. And questions from the board? Yes, Lisa?
I drove by and I was just curious, when was the house originally built?
To the best of our knowledge, there's very little. There's minimal information. A portion of the home was apparently built in the late 1800s, and then there was an addition made. My guess is somewhere in the 50s or the 60s. So that would explain why it's in a sunken.
Do you have plans to preserve any of the historic elements of that
If you
house?
really took a very close look at the house, there's really not a lot there to try to preserve. It's barely standing. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Brian, do you have a question?
No, not right now.
Yeah, I do. I have
Go ahead.
a couple of questions. Sure. The windows that are in the clear story
Yes.
up in the top, I'm assuming those are non-operable?
Probably not. I mean, probably, yeah, they will just be sealed. I don't know.
And do you, it's hard to see from the sketch, but is the finish around those windows the shingles or what?
It's still probably wood trim. There's probably not going to be much wall area left because it's all pretty much windows and the white wood trim. So.
Okay. And then on the standing seam, I know you're here early in the process. How high for the seam itself? What are you thinking?
Well, I don't see going extraordinary high or just kind of that typical with a bronze finish. It's not going to be copper. It'll be
So it's not going to be green as you're depicting here?
Well, it'll be a greenish, brownish kind of that bronze. They have.
It won't be as green as that.
So it won't be as green,
won't be as green.
as this color here.
That's right.
And the shingles are going to be left natural, stained. What are you?
They'll be stained. We're in a high fire area, I believe, so it's got to be the hardy back.
And then last question: you have a what appears to be a white trim around your opening where the front door sets
Yes.
back in. Does that trim go around the corner? What's your thought on the drawing here?
Well, yeah, it'll return probably a little bit around. I think I have a little bit of wall space to return that with. I don't know. right?
Oh, okay, so it's going to come around.
Yeah.
So that whole thing will probably be watercolor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe I think might put a little more decorative points or something like that. We'll just,
So that's your section. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jim, you had a question?
Yeah, so your corners are going to be mitered, or are you going to run like a 4x or 3x there? I think it's hard to miter the hardy.
yeah, it doesn't miter very well. It's just budded. I mean, we can go with white trim. We're just kind of looking for comments right now because we have the whole DART environmental thing we've gone through. So, we can put a wood trim on there.
Well, I like the looks without it, but
I know how they
You
kind
see
of
what we
start
can
blowing
do
up
there.
and peeling away if it's not
Yeah.
quite right. And I'm not sure how the Hardy Shake recommends. I don't want to see a metal bead on there, but
yeah, I think the color's important. It's going to have to be painted.
yeah, solid choice.
Does that stain pretty well, that hardy board?
No.
It goes solid.
No. Oh, it just goes solid. Okay, I see. Any other questions? Comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
No one else is ready. So, comments just dovetailing on Jim's comment on the corner. I think one of the things we'll want to see when you come back is how you're going to treat the corners.
Sure.
Maybe some indication of the detail.
Okay.
I think that I would like to see, what the light fixtures are going to look like and where they're located.
Sure.
That would be good. I guess I kind of like the colors that you presented on this sketch, so I'd be interested in seeing what your real color choices are.
Okay.
I realize that on the west elevation, these are all west-facing windows, but I'm a little concerned about the proportion of that window right there. It seems to me it wants to be a little bigger, just same window type, but just bigger, and there may be something driving that size, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's the kitchen sink kind of right there, but we can look at making it a little bit
it is the
bigger or
kitchen
something,
sink,
and
yeah.
it kind of pops out.
Well, either that, you could do a center window, then a space, and then operable windows to each side,
Yep.
and make it a little bit horizontal,
Okay.
and maybe push it up a little bit so that it's kind of where that window has to be in relationship to the countertop. That's always the struggle.
Yeah,
So
right.
do you put the window right down on the countertop, or do you put it up so it has a splash in the back, et cetera? So
Yeah.
I'd
Well,
be
we can make it bigger. The plate height is higher. It's not just a NATO plate in there, so
Right.
we can bring it up there.
it just doesn't look right just yet. And I realize if you make it bigger, then you're going to fight the issue of enough cabinet space on the inside, and so on. So it didn't quite look right yet. So I think those are my biggest comments, and then I'll be interested to see the porch details and how that relates to the hard surface walkway and driveway stuff. So,
I have one more comment.
back.
Yes.
Where you're projecting the roof up there, it looks like maybe you're leaving 6 inches in there. In here. It looks like it's maybe 6 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you gonna get somebody?
You won't be able to flash it or shingle it. I would tend to take it up higher
Okay.
so that you can get in there.
Get a little bit more room up
Yeah.
there. Okay. I'll restudy that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you. I'm looking at it in terms of neighborhood compatibility, and I don't agree with Fred. I don't really like these bold colors, especially. I can't really see how the roof is going to fit, so when you come back next time, I need either a little model or a different kind of drawing to show me the house next door and show the public how this design really fits. It's not too modern, it's not too unusual to fit with the beachy feel of the neighborhood. And then this, I was just wondering if perhaps this could be thicker, or it just the proportion seems a little skinny to me. But in general, I like the direction, and I think it's going to be a great house.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other comments, Barry?
You have some questions?
Yes, Brian.
I'd like to see a little more detail with the chimneys. I can do the chimney caps.
Sure.
How that's going to Oh. Okay, say that again. Yeah, I'd like to see some detail on the chimney caps, how you're going to address the tops of the chimneys.
Okay.
And I guess follow up with Bernie's comments about this, I don't know, about the standing metal seam roof. And I'd like to see a little more information on that as well.
Okay, I'll bring some manufacturer's literature on.
And maybe some other color options.
Okay.
Those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, yes, Jamie.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that I think that the form of the house is very nice. I like the shape of the house. And also the planting plan, the plants are perfect.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
I have a question in my landscape column.
Yes.
Based on I guess it was a phone call from the Creeks folks. Based on your observation of the landscape plan, does that
Yes, it
address
does.
what they're concerned about?
Totally does, yes, it does.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is comments only, so would someone like to formulate a motion with comments, positive or with some directions?
Just for a moment, I just wanted to mention, when you're making the motion, to be sure to itemize things. It really helps both myself and our secretary if you guys can craft a motion saying item number 1, such and such, number 2, such and such, etc. And this item again, is for comments only. So be sure to be very clear in when you're continuing the item, if it's continued indefinitely to the full board first, or whether you want it to go, if it's okay to proceed to the planning commission. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, I'll attempt the motion. So, just, Shell, on the Planning Commission review, basically the option at this point is for the applicant to take note of our comments. They could, in theory, then go to Planning Commission and get Planning Commission review, then come back to this board.
Yeah. Typically, the only reason you maybe perhaps want it to come back to the full board before you grant the okay to go to Planning Commission is if you have some substantial design changes that you'd like to see.
Well, given that I didn't hear any major substantial design changes, I would make the motion that the applicant be continued indefinitely and that would come back to us after your Planning Commission review. That way that's done, and then we can go from there. But the following comments are made about the architecture. The board will be interested, the board will be interested in the corner treatment of the hearty-shaped shingles. 2, the board would like to see on the elevations and on plan the light fixture locations and a catalog cut of the light fixture or fixtures. The board would like to see further available color schemes for the standing seam metal roof. They would also like to see an example of the standing seam metal roof or a catalog cut, particularly in terms of the height of the standing seam itself and the width of the area between standing seams. The board would appreciate further study of the window over the kitchen sink on the west elevation. I think that's where it was. Am I going too fast? You got it? And then I thought I heard...
Chimney.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And chimney cap, detail and section through and elevation study of what the chimney caps should look like. Is that it? And I just remembered something. I'm assuming, are you going to have some venting into any of the attic pieces?
It's all open beam, so there's no attic.
So there's no attic, so there won't be any amplification. And do we need any further landscape?
No, it's
Stuff.
pretty good.
So we're okay with that? Okay. Right, that's my motion.
Okay. Yes.
I second.
Okay.
And
Under discussion.
under discussion, this, I don't know, but maybe we could bring us other examples of these types of roofs in the neighborhood.
Okay, take some more photos.
Okay, if there are any, because I don't know.
It's part of the standing seam roof.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there's some along Channel Drive, or not Channel,
Well,
Shoreline.
In the neighborhood, in this neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay. As the maker of the motion, I will accept that suggestion. So we'll make that part of that, whatever item number that was on the middle room. Okay.
Okay. Do we have a second for that motion?
Yeah.
I second it.
Oh, you did second that, thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? None. Okay, so good luck
Thank
with
you very much.
Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, board members, we're
Thanks, Paul.
super ahead of time, and this is, the next item is a public hearing noticed item, so I recommend that we recess for at least 20 minutes.
Maybe we take our break now then instead of later. Can we do that? Can we do that?
I don't want to.
We can always
Okay, then we're going to take a 20-minute recess, and we shall be back approximately 5:05.
I can see the sun up high, though we're caught in a storm. I can see.
I'd like to reopen the April 8th, 2013 Single Family Design Board meeting. And we are about to see 745 Dolores Drive, and we're a little ahead of time. So we're going to open public comment here after we get the plans up on the table and get the presentation done. And if someone comes forward after we've closed public comment, we will go ahead and reopen it later and allow them to speak. So meanwhile, we can call forward 745 Dolores Drive. This is a concept review, a new item. This is a proposal to construct a new 1,153 square foot second-story addition to an existing 1,256 square foot one-story single-family residence and an existing 409 square foot attached two-car garage, located on a 9,409 square foot parcel in the Hillside Design District. The proposal includes an interior remodel, facade alterations, a new upper-level deck, replacement of the existing roof materials with a new composition shingle roof, and replacement of the existing concrete driveway with pavers. The proposed total of 2,818 square feet is 80% of the required floor-to-lot area ratio. This is comments only. The project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer review for a requested zoning modification. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I am Russ Banco, and I represent the Heenies that are the owners of this property. And the modification is because the addition and the existing house are out of the setback, but the garage, this was a different zoning when it was built, the garage is both in the side yard setback and the front yard setback by the new zoning, the zone it's in now. But the addition I'm doing is not in the setback.
I see.
And I surveyed the neighborhood just to get a feel for it. And this is the entire La Coronilla track, built in 57. It probably got phased out over a year or two. This one was built in 57. And all the ones with X's are two-story houses. All the other ones are one-story, and that's the subject property. So there's a total of 40 houses. It was a one-story track when it was built. So all 40 are additions, remodels. And the character of the neighborhood, I drove the whole neighborhood taking pictures, and I would guess that when it was built, probably 1/3 of the neighborhood was mid-century modern. And there's some of the original houses that are in the mid-century modern. Once they remodel them, it's hard to tell if some they kept the mid-century modern feel and some they didn't. And then these are just different representations of different styles that they did on different editions. This one they stuck with the mid-century look. This one's Cubist modern. And then there's a bunch of other styles. I'm sticking with a modern version of a mid-century.
Okay.
I happen to like mid-centuries. Okay, so the main problem, the house was built in 57 and every room in the house is too small for its use. So there was a way to give up one, it's a 4-bedroom house, and by giving one bedroom up, I could essentially make 3 acceptable bedrooms downstairs and a rec room, family room, and then I just put a great room and the master suite upstairs.
Okay.
And now all rooms are a normal size. All these bedrooms had closets cutting into them. This space right here was actually 2 bathrooms, the smallest bathrooms I've ever seen. I made it into one so I could steal this closet away, put it here. Now that bedroom's okay. I stole a closet from here, moved this wall into the old living room so that I could get 2 closets here for these 2 bedrooms. So that room became smaller, which didn't matter. That was the old kitchen. It becomes a laundry room, and I might put a wall right here too and make this storage and this laundry, because that's what it really is. This is all storage cupboards, because the garage is exactly 20 feet inside. And you can't even put a bookcase on one side and store anything. So we had to use it for something, and I need that wall. That's a bearing wall, and this is a bearing wall that I need. So I stole the bedroom that was here, put the stairs up the side, came in at the halfway level, and then you either go down to go to this area or up to go to the great room and master bedroom suite. And by doing that, part of that room made enough room to get a real bathroom. Now this is a real bathroom, that's a real bathroom. They aren't big, but they're at least usable. And upstairs above this bathroom is stacked a powder room to go for the general public, and then above the other bedroom is the master bathroom. And the balcony, this was the mistake I made the first time around. I have the balcony out here, and it wasn't set back far enough by the new rules, so I've now put it over the downstairs patio in the backyard. And for I've got the elevation in here, but I also have it colored, if you wanted to see a colored one, just to get a feel for what the colors are going to be. This is the street view. It's all western red cedar, tongue and groove, and stucco. And the railings are cable rail, steel going up for the stringers for the stairs. And that's the south ocean view. This is facing the uphill house, which could look in, so it has small bathroom windows. This is going up the stairway tower. Comp roof, stucco, trimmed windows, wood trimmed, cable rail. So that is the street look and the side, and then that's the same picture in black and white here. And it's a low pitch, a 3 and 12 roof, like all the mid-centuries were, or some of them were flat, but lots of them were 3 and 12s. And the house is there, it is a 3 and 12 right now too. And then the last is the original floor plan and the calculation for the solar access to the lot above. And these are typical stacked track where it's approximately 7 feet per house. Each house is 7 feet above the one below it. It's a fairly steep street. So all the ones around there seem stacked. I think I put on this first page, I think I put what the heights were on the topo. Yes, this house sits at 366. We're at 358. This one's at 351. And then it's uphill this way too, so these are at 361, 367, and 371. So this street over here is higher than this street. And across the street is that empty park that goes up to the water tanks and all the towers.
Okay.
And that is essentially it.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I'm going to open public comment, and what you'll do is come right up here and sit in this chair here or there. Either one. This microphone is on, so this might be a good place to sit. You have 2 minutes to speak. First person, Rosemarie Keller?
Yes.
And Barry Keller.
Yeah, I was hoping he could make it. He's at a water commission meeting in the same building.
Uh-huh. Okay, and then you can speak into this microphone.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Actually, I came more to find out more about this because I hadn't seen the design. We live right next door on the
Way are you?
downside.
Downside.
Yeah, towards the ocean,
Yeah.
741. And I'm seeing that, the thing that alarms me first off is the deck over the patio area, because that is right now there's nothing there, and right below that is our pool. We have a lap pool. We have wonderful privacy now, and we don't have any trees or anything protecting us from that privacy. We have a 5-foot fence. And I don't know for the patio, too, what you have planned for that. Right now, they just have a lawn there, and or the people that were there. But that would be very intrusive for our privacy. I think that overall, too, I'm not sure this is the La Cornilla tract. The houses that you're showing are the ones that they're on La Cornilla and Roberto, which is an upscale. Ours on Dolores, they were built in '57, and they're all 50s tract houses. They all have small rooms. And on our block, there's one person who built something over the garage, 3 doors down from us, and then across the street up on the corner. But other than that, there haven't been any additions. And because it is so steep, we all really appreciate our views, and I think that if we start having something like this, other people are going to have to do the same thing to keep their view, and it's sort of setting a precedent for our particular area. Other than that, I know that the owners don't plan to live here for another 10 years or so.
Yeah, 5 to 10 years when you can retire.
Yeah. So that's of concern too. I don't know. I don't think that has too much to do with the planning commission, but we don't know, who the renters are.
No, they're not.
They're
No,
going
this
to
is
keep.
a
So they'll be
weekend home until,
unoccupied.
and probably 4 weeks a year and maybe 20 weekends.
Uh-huh.
They come to Santa Barbara all the time now.
Yeah. Well, I
But
haven't
he
seen
can't
them.
quit. He can't retire
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
And he works in
Yeah.
Bakersfield.
Yeah, I met them, and they seem very nice. And of course, the top priority is to be on good terms with your neighbors. But those are some of the
Okay,
concerns.
thank you so much. Really appreciate your comments. And next we have Don Hay. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Don Hay, and we live a house away from him at 807 Dolores.
807.
Which one is it?
There's 801 is the next one, and 807.
So you're that one?
That one right there, yeah.
Yeah.
One before the corner. And I don't want to repeat some of the things that were said, but when that tract was built, they were all single level residences, and it's all terraced because it's on a hill, and like we have hedges all the way around our house, and we keep them trimmed so we can have ocean views and island views, and we also allow the neighbor to trim our hedges so they can enjoy the view. And as Rosemary said, if one person builds up, in order to reestablish your view, the next it has to build up. And there'll also be blocking of the sunlight, the natural sunlight. And the two residents I spoke of, 801 and ours, both have solar energy on them, and that's gonna affect the efficiency on that. And the last item is, prior to any decision, I would really like to see story poles placed on the house so we can really see how we're impacted. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Okay, if there's no one else, then we'll be back to staff for any letters.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge a letter received from Hala Westbury, just expressing some concerns.
Okay, thank you. All right. And at this time, we can open up for questions from the board.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Brian.
What are your plate heights? What are your plate heights?
They are 358 would make the next one at 9 more is 367.
Well, I mean the actual heights of the
Nine.
ceilings. Like what's the
9 feet.
ceiling
Oh, it's an
height?
8-foot ceiling on the first story
Yes.
and an 8-foot ceiling on the second story.
Okay, thank you.
Because it's all, the second story is all at, the beams. So in the middle, it's more. It's at the
Right.
plate, it's 8 foot, and then it goes
It's a
up
volume
to,
ceiling, yeah. Got it.
10.6 or something.
Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Yeah, Madam Chair, let's see, several questions. I was over at the house this morning, so this tree is now fully in bloom, fully leaved.
Yeah.
Where is that tree?
That's
I didn't
the
go.
back-
I didn't go.
that's
in
the backyard. It's-
So that tree is in the backyard.
Yeah, it's
and
enormous.
is that tree scheduled to stay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And then that big one in the front, too, this guy.
Okay. And then the question I have is, can you explain how this front staircase works, and then maybe share with us why you selected it to do it that way?
Well, I've done 2 or 3 where you have an upside-down house, living on the top, sleeping on the bottom, and it's very convenient. I've lived in one of them that the house Cousteau lives in now was one of these where you come in at the halfway point. So you go up the stairway half a flight, then you come in. This is the exact mirror of that going back down again. If you come in down here, you got to go 15 rises to get to the kitchen, living room, dining room. When you go half of it at the beginning, and then you only have to do half a flight of stairs, it's much more convenient doing it that way than taking all the stairs at once when you have an upside-down house. If the living was on the bottom and the sleeping was on the top, then you just come in the door. But as this, you come up, and then this mirrors that and goes back down again, and the other half goes up this way, and so you are only that. You have guests come, they walk up this far, you open the door, and they have half a flight of stairs to go. And this also puts the kids on the bottom and the adults on the top.
So in other words, in the current house, the living versus sleeping conditions are all on the same floor. In this plan, you're moving all of the living to the top floor.
All but this room.
All but that.
That's still a living room that goes with the kids' part of the house. And there's one bedroom that went upstairs to make up for this bedroom that was lost.
And then the fireplace that's existing, this one,
It's going away.
it's going away. What are you doing to, or are you doing anything to make the design of this house sustainable? In other words, are you going to reuse some of that brick? What else are you doing to make the house sustainable?
Well, we're keeping all the loose materials that are on the ground. Most all the rest of the material is there's some loose patios that I'm going to tear up, get rid of all the weeds and junk, and then reuse them as a loose lay patio. If I can get it out of that, that will probably become the patio below this one. If those will separate, you never know until you start.
Okay, and then what are you thinking back on the elevations, this front staircase? What's the material you're thinking about?
I'm still debating. I think it's going to be. I haven't gotten anybody to quote me a price yet on how expensive it is. I was thinking of it being powder-coated diamond plate bent, but I don't know if I can afford to have it done.
For the risers and treads and
Everything.
the
Just
stringers?
take diamond plate and keep going.
And then on the back side, on the west side, the deck itself is constructed of what? It kind of looks like concrete, but I'm not sure what.
Yeah, that was actually in the
What is that?
in the coloring. It was a error.
So what
It's
do you?
the legs are going to be stucco and the top is going to be tiled. It's going to be a waterproof deck.
Okay, so this is all stucco.
That'll be stucco.
And the windows are what type of windows?
They are going to be
Clad wood, what?
bronze anodized aluminum with wood trim, which is more of the 50s feel.
And so where is the wood trim on your sketch?
The brown around the outside, because the aluminum's only that wide. The bronze aluminum.
And again, the horizontal wood, that's a hardy?
Western red cedar.
Red cedar, okay. And it's not tongue and groove, it's just a single?
TNG.
See, it is a TNG
Yeah.
material. And the asphalt shingles for the roof?
Yeah, shadow line dimensional.
Okay. And the I know you said 8 foot and 8 foot, but the living room showing windows all the way up. So what's that distance there from the floor?
Well, this is down beyond
No, I
the
understand.
floor height.
Where's your floor line?
Right about there.
Okay, and then so what's more or less that distance from there up to the top?
To here? Well, if I give me 12 to the middle. So the room is 2814 times 3 is 42 inches, plus the thickness of the roof.
And then I know you shared with us the 2 major trees would be kept, but are you? The house is not very well cared for right now. So what is the notion about landscaping?
They want it to be pretty simple. I want to remove the yard pretty much filled up with junk, and we want to take all the lawns out, cut down the lawn area, no lawn in the front, more mid-centuries, succulents, century plants, more mid-century landscape to the front, very drought tolerant. The back will have some lawn, and the rest will be low water use drip system yard. And they said specifically to get rid of all the lawn in the front.
And you're not proposing any solar panels or anything like that, right?
Let me think which direction that's facing. I'm trying to think here. That is going. I got to see if they're facing the right direction. That's that way and that way. And that one's not tall enough. Actually, you could.
But you're not proposing that.
I don't have a plan on it, no. But I think the garage faces the correct way to get solar. Yeah.
And then the modification, figure, if we go back to your plan, the modification that you need is to keep the 2-car garage because the setback is now 30 feet. And it was, this is at 23 feet, and the setback is 10 feet now.
Yeah, it was 6 when it was built.
It was 6 when it was built. Okay. And then, did I hear you say replacing the driveway with?
I'm going to replace it with, it's shot. I'm going to replace it. Right now, they're planning on systems pavers, or loose lay pavers.
Okay.
That's not set in stone yet. I still have to have a few more meetings with them.
All right, and then this existing retaining wall remains?
Yeah.
Okay, and that is what?
Railroad tie.
It's railroad tie.
Yeah, about 3 feet tall.
Okay, that's my
And there's a
question.
fence up here that is probably going to have to be replaced, but I got to talk to the neighbor. It's a property line fence, and there are boards coming down holding it up because it's falling over.
And the fences on the other two?
Fence on this side is standing upright, and it's
And
solid.
the one on the back side?
One on the back is a regular fence.
And they're wood plank fences?
Yeah, wood plank fences.
Okay.
This one's kind of short.
Are they painted or
No, they're wood color.
Wood color.
This is a normal height fence. This is a normal height fence. This one only appears to be about 4'6" maybe.
Mm-hmm. And the size of that deck back there is what again?
Oh, what was that?
Is that on
It
the
was,
thing here?
I think it's 15 by.
It scales at 16.6 by 12, and then if you include the stairs, it's 15. 16.6 by 15.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, could you explain the stairs again?
Okay. So, I mean, you're going to think I'm crazy with what I wanted to do, but I haven't found a material that will work unless I have them on I've got a wall under here that can support it. I've got a wall here that it can sit on. What I wanted to do was just have them like tuning forks and just stick straight through the front wall and have no stringer.
Yeah, where does the stairs start?
Right there.
How do you
Step
get
up on-
there?
From the driveway. You walk up onto a landing and then right up the stairs.
That's the entry.
And I wanted to do it, but I can't turn it. I was going to do it with glue lams, but they will delaminate, turning them the opposite way. And
Could I see your solar again, your diagram? It's kind of small.
solar, yeah. There's the apex of the ridge. I'm way below it because of the rises are so high between houses. And this one happens to be the big side. I'm closer on this side. This side's because they were parking a motorhome or a boat or something in here before. There's a lot of room.
Difference in elevation is 3 feet?
Do
you have a dimension
7
on
feet.
It's
Here, do they?
yeah, it's on the front page.
It's
Track
feet
them all.
drop.
It's
Finished floors.
yeah, 8 feet between finished floors on that one and 7 on the next one.
Okay.
That's it.
Any questions? Comments?
I have a few.
Yes, Brian?
I appreciate your efforts, but I have to say I'm really uncomfortable with your remodel. There's several approaches about the remodel that I just don't think is compatible. You're saying it's a 50s home, yet the addition you're adding to me feels more like of a deconstructionist type of style, especially with those windows. And what was more popular in the 50s was the steel crank window, not the aluminum iodide. That became very popular more in the early 60s. So I think you need to restudy your approach. And an architect that you could study that was really famous for tract homes of that style was Bernard Maybeck. I mean, he did all of San Fernando Valley. I mean, but this to me it's not compatible with the existing home. The feel of this, and then you see this, it's like these are almost like two different houses on top of each other. And then I'm very uncomfortable with this deck, and I don't think the steel cable railings work in this particular style, because I don't think they did that in the 50s. So there's elements that need to be studied to stay in the vernacular, and it's just kind of towers. So I'm thinking square foot reductions may need to be in place as well in the upper level, considering one, it's a second story, so you're setting a precedent in the neighborhood, and you've got view issues and privacy issues, so that too needs to be considered. But
Just so I can understand,
Yeah.
what is the precedent I'm setting?
you're adding a second story in a one-story neighborhood.
But there's 40 houses that already added the second story.
Oh, okay.
There's the 40 that were done. They're saying there are no 2 stories. 40
Okay.
of the houses are 2-story.
Okay, all right. I stand corrected. So I'll rephrase it, and I'll say that the way you apply your second story is a little too incompatible with the existing home. And so I think that needs to be good. I just feel that this elevation doesn't go with this elevation. They're almost like 4 different homes. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I think it needs to be, and this to me does not look like a front door. This looks more like a back door to me. So, and like I said, these are not windows of the 50s. This is something that was very popular in the mid 80s, I think, or what they do in Europe now. Anyway, those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have several. I'm going to follow on Brian's footsteps. The size, scale, and bulk is not appropriate yet. It's not that I'm against having a second floor, and I understand, and I looked at the neighborhood. There, as you say, there are plenty of homes that have second floors. Some are done well, some are not done so well. This, as it's presented now, could be one of those that's not done so well. I think the size, scale, and bulk is an issue here. It may not have something to do with the actual square footage, but it's how you have applied it to this existing building. Based on what you've shown me, I think that I would encourage you to get some design assistance as you move forward. With regards to the front staircase, the composition, the approach, etc., is not really compatible with the approach that you're taking with the house. It's certainly not compatible with the neighborhood in some of the other second-story homes that have been put there in recent years. If you're going to move all the living area up to the second floor, then I would encourage you, if you want to go to this staircase configuration, that it occur on the inside of the home and not be exposed to the exterior. I think that several of the window compositions are proportionally incorrect. I think proportion needs to be looked at. I really have to be convinced about the detailing around the windows as you've verbally described it. I think the deck size is probably too large. I would be much more supportable of a smaller deck and a different deck configuration and perhaps even a different location. I'd want to see the deck view relationship to the immediate neighbors. Particularly, we've had testimony from one neighbor about their ability to retain privacy in their swimming pool in their backyard. So I'd want to see some photographs and some sections, site sections, to see where the line of sights are. I'm concerned about any kind of landscaping plan. I'm really going to be interested in seeing, and I for one would be one that would say we'd have to have a landscape plan for this project, because I'm concerned about that tree in the backyard. I'm concerned about the material palettes that you're proposing. I'd really want to see examples, not just catalog cuts, but I'd want to see some examples of how you think this material is going to be applied. I certainly are going to be, as we move forward, probably in any case, I'm going to be supportive of a full-fledged story pool use before we approve any final design. And at least the way it's presented at this point, aesthetically, the way it's been presented, I have difficulty supporting the modification as it's now presented. I'm concerned about the railroad tie retaining wall. I know it's existing. That's why I think a landscape plan is going to be vital, whether you hide that with landscaping or treat it in a different manner. I'm not sure that that's an appropriate approach. So I, in general, just have a very difficult time with the design as it's presented, and certainly with the size, scale, and bulk.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, before we continue,
Yes.
reopen
All right.
public comment for that item, please.
Yes, I'd like to reopen public comment because we did start early. So I'd like to call forth Dr. Barry Keller, please. And you can sit right here and speak into this microphone. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm Water Commissioner of the City of Santa Barbara, and that's the reason I've delayed getting here. We have a Water Commission meeting this afternoon, and so I just came directly from the Water Commission. I guess my wife, who previously spoke, and I would be the chief victims of this gentleman's plan, particularly the large windows looking down on the south, as apparently was noted. That would be looking the side of our house and into the swimming pool area. So I was particularly dismayed to see that aspect of the plan. In terms of the trees, the large tree in the front is the city's tree. I'm not sure the property owners has the right to do anything to that tree at all. The large one in the back, I think most of the neighbors would prefer he did cut the thing down. It blows elm tree seeds all over the neighborhood. It blew about 10 bushels of them today, and we get sprouts from that tree all over the place. So at any rate, I'm very concerned at the design that's been presented for this project. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your commentary. Okay, back to the board. We still have questions and comments from the board. I guess we're doing both at this point.
Yeah, I have one. Yeah, I'm concerned with the size, bulk, and scale. I think it needs to be, the roof shapes need to be reworked. The entrance, I don't want to repeat all these items over again, but I'm in agreement with what has been said. If you look at the two-story houses in the neighborhood, they're all different levels. There's a lot of recesses on the second floor between the second and the first floor, not just a solid wall going up. So I think it needs a lot of work, a lot of design work.
Okay. Bernie.
Thank you. And thank you. I'm not going to repeat everything either. The only new thing I would like to add is I do think it needs to be altered. It doesn't really fit the neighborhood. It doesn't meet our compatibility guidelines because the style, for one thing, the entryway with the stairs, I don't think there's anything else in the neighborhood like that. And when you do come back, which you will, and we'll be inviting you to come back with the modified version, I would like to see pictures of the two-story homes in the immediate neighborhood, not 3 blocks away and not up on La Cour, but on this street and the street right intersecting it, because I don't think there are that many two-story homes yet. Not that there will not be, because there will be, because we have to allow that, but they have to be more gently introduced into the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
Yes. My question for you is, consider that we were talking about this before the meeting, that the street tree, the ficus that is in the front now will probably, I see the city, rather than spending the money to trim them twice a year and grind the roots and fix the sidewalk, they're taking them out rather than replacing them with a smaller tree. So in considering how your project is going to look, you might consider how minus that tree is going to affect your design. And also, just a comment, the tree in the back is not an elm, it's an ash. You have the common name right.
It's a chamois ash.
Chamois ash. And yes,
I just said elm. I know it's not an elm.
that tree, it's huge. And when they get that big, they're very brittle, and they break, and they are a continuous mess, and they will uproot a lot of any utilities you have near it. So
that one I don't think I'll have a problem with my client. I think my client will be okay with getting rid of it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat anything, but I'm in agreement with most everything that has been said.
Okay. And I'll weigh in as well. I think that the most disturbing part of the design for me is the entryway. If this had been continuous across the top, some kind of a landing with the steps coming this way, something more generous, then it really does look like the back door to me. It's difficult enough that you're trying to do this taking the kitchen upstairs and trying to do this split thing, that is such a departure from what's already there. And I feel that this is definitely too much for this house, this whole window configuration here. So it's not looking like you have the support of the board for this project. We'll go ahead and formulate a motion.
It's comments only?
This is comments only. No, yes it is, right. It is comments only, so we'll formulate a motion to try to give you some guidance for when you come back.
At least you gave me the ammo that they aren't getting their master bedroom upstairs. We had quite a bit of argument about that was going to make too much square footage upstairs.
Well, it's not to say they can't have that. It just, you have to configure it in a way that's going to be compatible with the neighborhood and compatible with what's already existing here on this site, unless you're starting all over from scratch. So who would like to...
Okay. All right, thanks. I guess I'm going to try to, it's comments only though, so
Yes.
we will move to continue the project however many weeks you like.
Yeah, right.
4 weeks?
Indefinitely.
Indefinitely?
Indefinitely, because we don't know when he's going
And
to
we
get
would
there.
just like the applicant to pay attention to the following items. One is the majority of the board feels that the design, the proposal doesn't meet our guidelines, so it needs to be revised. And the items that we'd like to have revised are the entryway staircase, number 1. Number 2, the windows, especially the large upper windows. And number 3, the deck and the stairway to the deck. We don't know of any other homes in the neighborhood that are like that, and we want these homes to be compatible. Number 4, the majority of the board feels the tree in the backyard is at the owner's discretion to figure out what to do with it. Number 5, we would like to have a material palette. 6, the proportions of windows we'd like to be studied. Number 7, solar access to be studied. Number 8, at this time, the board does not support the modification for the garage, but we are certainly open to revisiting that with a different plan. And then number 9, the board would like to see a different treatment for the railroad ties. Anything else to add to that?
The landscape plan?
And we'd like to see a full landscape plan.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Open the discussion.
Yeah, and so I would encourage the maker of the motion and the second motion to make sure we include some language about, we've all said that the size, scale, and bulk is not compatible.
Yes.
Use those terms.
That was unanimous about this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have Brian seconded. So all in favor of this
Wait,
motion?
and
we're
then
not
one more
done.
thing, we'd like to see photographs of the nearby homes, the closest second stories, and we'd like to see how those have been treated and then how they compare to this one. Thank you.
Then, Madam Chair, for further discussion, and maybe this is a question to the maker of the motion, are we as a board, I know that we're not enamored with the configuration of the balcony in its exact location, but are we okay with the relative size of the balcony, square footage?
I would say the balcony needs to be reduced. It's way too big for the
And can I interject something just about semantics here too? That this is not a balcony. This is a deck.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
So, but he's calling it a balcony. That's why I'm not saying
Okay,
it for
so
your.
it's a deck.
I want to just make that clear that a balcony usually
Yes,
isn't
it's
this
just an
big.
extension
It's
off
an
the house.
extension off of the house,
Okay.
maybe 4 feet, something like that. But this is definitely a deck.
Okay. So I would encourage the maker of the motion and the second to accept language about the size of the deck.
I agree.
Okay, and the seconder agrees?
Yes, I
All in
support
favor
that.
of this motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, sir.
Yeah, I had one question. You keep bringing, it came up a bunch of times about how this doesn't fit the old house. Well, the client most assuredly does not want this to relate to the old house at all. He bought that as a lot with a shell, and I certainly don't have to keep it looking like that original house, right? I can
No.
go totally different than the original house.
Right.
There's no obligation to keep it looking like what was built there in 57, is there?
Correct, but you still have,
Not this,
there is still the
design.
issue of neighborhood compatibility.
but
And that's
but-
where the fine line
but I
comes.
can make it a different look than the house that was there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And also Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
You may want to refer your clients to homes that were built after the guidelines were in place, because some of the two-story homes in that neighborhood were before this committee, before we had studied other cities, and we have a book of design guidelines, so they may want to look at that.
When was that printed?
2007 is when this whole design board happened, or before that, it was already in but this board came about then, so I think, you want to say, you can discuss.
I was just going
Nothing's right.
to, thank
Ages
you.
ago.
I was just going to clarify that this board has always existed, and there has always been the Neighborhood Preservation Ordinance. However, in 2007, the Architectural Board of Review, which is where single-family homes were reviewed, they were divided and separated into two boards. So now the Architectural Board of Review, which previously looked at all development outside of the Pueblo Viejo district or historic properties, now there's ABR looks at just multifamily, 2 residential and commercial, and this board specifically looks at single family. The NPO ordinance was actually updated in 2007, but it was always prior.
Yeah, but that book was around 20,
Yes.
that book 20-some years, right? Design
Yes,
for
exactly.
side hills?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I'd like to comment on what you're saying. What I would look like, and I think what the board looks is, you want to make sure that your design is sympathetic with the neighborhood. Don't try to make a dashing or daring statement, but you want to be in the context of your neighborhood.
Then you probably weren't too happy with that one.
Which one?
The murder house.
Well, everybody, it's not a black or white thing. People have different opinions, but we're trying to
I'm the one that had to
stick
fix
with
it
the
after that.
guidelines.
Oh my gosh.
All right, well then, we've made the motion, it's been unanimously voted on, and we wish you the best of luck, and we'll see you back here with another idea. Yes. And then you can keep these, because we have this, and we'll keep this plan that was on camera. Thank you. And this is to go.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to take a short recess. We'll adjourn the meeting for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and we'll be back around 6:20. Okay, I'd like to reconvene the April 8th, 2013 Single Family Design Board meeting. And we are now on item number 6 at 758 Juanita Avenue. Could you introduce yourselves, please?
I'm Eric Swinimson, the designer. And I'm Cliff Hubbard, the owner.
Welcome. Yes. This is a new item, concept review. This is a proposal to construct a new 767 square foot one-story addition and a 700 square foot two-story addition to an existing one-story 1,145 square foot single-family residence with an attached 406 square foot two-car garage. The proposed total of 3,018 square feet, located on a 13,242 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District, is 73% of the required floor-to-lot area ratio. This is a concept review. Action may be taken if sufficient information is provided. The project requires compliance with Tier 3 Stormwater Management Program prior to final approval. And your presentation, please.
Do I need to locate it for you? It's Juanita comes in off near the top of Meigs.
Okay.
Just southbound, just after you crest. So, top of Meigs Road. And like you said, this is a home that was built in about 1957.
We should look at these first, too, and we can get a sense of what this project is looking like.
Well, Meigs Road is up here. All right. Well, this is the street view of the existing house. And this is, let's see, looking upside down here. Juanita, this is up higher, this road. Okay.
North.
Up the street and down the street. See the neighbors. And these are taken from the back up on the hill in the back, looking down at the house. I've got a few more. Standing both on the street, looking up the side yard, so you can see the relationship to the neighbors' houses.
This poem right there.
Right.
Okay.
Down the street again, the property line. These are the same as the others, if you want to pass them around. Okay. So basically, this is the existing house, the garage, and bedrooms and such over here. And we're proposing a small addition to the front, and then a second-story master above. And on the ground floor, again, we're extending the home along the interior lot line back here for another bedroom and kind of family room area. And we're, as you can see, we're insetting the upper floor. We're trying to be conscious of the neighbors. We're bumping a little bit towards the street, but still quite a bit from the 30-foot setback. Part of the reason here is twofold. The family's growing. They need more space. And then if you're on the roof here, there's a wonderful view in this direction, so we're just trying to gather that from the master bedroom a little bit. A little bit. There's a roughly 100 square foot balcony we've got here. Again, inset, so that we're not looking down on the neighbors or any of that. This is the extent of the addition at the front. The upper floor cantilevers another 16 inches or so out here. And then this is the ground floor addition. And this is the master above. This is the street view, the business end. We're trying to, again, we're maintaining the roof pitch, the 3 and 12 in the upper and lower additions. It's under 20 feet high to the top of the ridge of the upper floor, so it's still relatively modest height. Before questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to open public comment. I don't see anyone in the audience. Do you have any letters?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We do have a letter we'd like to acknowledge that we received from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Okay, thank you.
And do we know what the letter says? Or?
No.
It's just a general concern, nothing specific to this project.
Okay, all right then. And now I'd like to open it up for questions from the board.
Madam Chair, a question?
Yes, Frank.
Plate heights?
The plate heights, most of the existing downstairs are 7.5 feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The north end on the downstairs, we're going to increase to 8 feet. And in this area, it's going to be, I think I'm at 9.5. Just one story on just this addition in the back. And then the upper floor is an 8-foot plate.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair. Let's see, I'm trying to understand, this is the front.
Correct.
Towards so the garage doors are basically saying where they are today.
Correct.
This element, I was trying to figure out where, there's a fireplace coming up. Is that further back? What am I looking at?
Well, the fireplace is in the master upstairs at the front corner. Here.
So that's a fireplace?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Right there. So there's a fire, but there's no fireplace on the bottom floor because that's the bump out for the bathroom.
We've got that's an existing fireplace,
Yes.
but right, we've created a utility room in there, but I've just brought all of this down to kind of anchor it.
That fireplace is this fireplace.
Correct.
Okay. And then what do you see? Are these fixed windows? How do what's going on?
Most likely fixed. They're in the stairwell. It's going to be pretty hard to get to, so I think we're at this
So
point
in
thinking
your
fixed.
stairwell is, okay, so it's here.
There's the master
And
closet.
this window is
Closet.
a closet. Okay. And it's a different size and goes through, correct?
Yes, it's wider, right? Same height.
And then I'm assuming that this cut angle is done because there's a view or something? What's
There,
going on?
there is. Right. That's the view.
And so this is not a slider, it's a French door?
Right.
Or a pair of French doors? Or a single leaf and a fixed leaf?
It's a pair of French doors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's happening right there?
Again, that's the stairwell. If you want to look at the lower floor, it's this window at the landing.
It's that window right there?
Right. Right. And
So,
this is 4
so
feet
that elevation is going to show us what happens when that roof meets right there.
Correct.
Okay, so that window is overlapping. I mean, that roof is overlapping this window.
Right, it is, yeah. And this is just shed up to that point, so.
And then those windows there are casements, sliders, what?
Well, we're in discussion a little bit still, but I was thinking originally casements on most of the windows. This will probably be a slider. This will likely be a slider, but.
And then these are gutters?
Yes.
And the downspouts are going to be where?
Well, we haven't located all of those yet.
I haven't quite figured that out.
Yeah, we're working.
That window, that's off the family.
Correct. To the backyard where
And there's no windows to the
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, and then I was out there earlier in the day with my brother's photographs job. There is a house. Yeah, there's a two-story house here, there's a two-story house there. Do we have any idea of what they see or don't see like that? What do they actually see?
Cliff actually went around and spoke with all these neighbors, 10 closest lots.
So you
and,
talked with those folks?
Right, and got in their backyard and can see what they see. This one could, from the fence, look down and see the addition. They didn't have any concerns about it at all, but it's way down there.
Okay.
They're pretty far up there.
And then my last question is actually to staff. If we go back to the site plan, we had a project, the previous project that's in this general neighborhood, and they were showing the fact that they had an existing house, they're putting a second floor, they're having to go for a modification because their existing garage is in the setback. I see that same condition here, but there's no indication of modification requirement.
Yes, I was going to speak to that. Thank you. So in this case, the reason whether or not they need a modification is reviewed by staff on a case-by-case basis, particularly to the extent of how much alteration is happening to the existing portion of the residence that's non-conforming. This proposal was reviewed and determined that because not only are they not adding above the existing portion that's non-conforming, that existing floor area is not changing. So it's a conforming addition, and it was made. This particular case was made the determination that it does not need a modification. Okay. If they were, however, to propose complete demolition or major remodel in the area that was non-conforming to the required setbacks, it would be reviewed again, and perhaps a modification would be required.
Okay, and then they're showing which I assume is not in the project at the moment, but they're showing a future pool. So if they actually want to do that, should that pool be moved so it's not in the setback line?
Pools per the ordinance can be located up to 5 feet from a interior setback.
Okay. But they'd have to put a fence and all that stuff
And
in the future.
the shape of the pool and the location may change a little bit. We're still early stages of that.
Okay. And then at this point, you're not proposing any major landscape changes, or?
No, we're not.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Brian.
It's a vent.
Oh, where are you pointing? Hold on.
I'm
Let's see
sorry,
if I-
east elevation. That's a round,
Around ridge vent.
so it'll have lines through it like a vent.
Yeah, louvers.
Louvers, yeah. And what is the construction of the railing?
Well, we're thinking iron rod. Horizontal.
Horizontal iron rod. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Jim.
Yeah, I was wondering, how are you holding up the roof at the corner there? Do you have a post there?
At this,
Uh-huh.
I was just talking with the engineer about a cantilevered beam in two directions. It's not a huge span.
Okay, any other questions?
Madam Chair, just,
Yes.
could you tell us what the windows are made out of?
We haven't decided yet. We're looking at mill guard, possibly fiberglass. We're not decided.
Okay, thank you. That was it.
Anyone else? Okay, how about comments?
Yeah, Madam Chair. I really appreciate the way that you were very sensitive to the original house in terms of your addition. Couple things, though. I think I'm a little wondering why you have such a large window into the closet. It seems kind of strange to me. So I don't see why you need a large window there. And I mean, I like the quirkiness of it. It kind of that's what they did those days, especially the fireplace with the funny. I mean, I could just see that. It's 1963. I could just experience it. But
Thanks for noticing that.
yeah, in this window here, there's something a little. I think that needs to be studied too. That's a little awkward for me, or awkward in that alignment or whatever. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll just follow through on. Yeah, I think this could get restudied. And I understand why there's a window. I've done walk-in closets with windows because it's nice to have natural light. It's big closet. But the rhythm you've set up by those three windows, it just seems like that screams to say, just make me the same size. And I am a little. I understand what you're trying to do into the stairwell and get light in there, and that's really a good idea. I'm just the composition of how you put that window there doesn't quite work for me yet, and I'm not. I don't want to have to draw you a sketch. I'm sure you could figure that out. On the front of the house, and I like Brian's comment. This is what you would see in that vernacular of architecture, but it might help the whole front of the composition. Sometimes what you would see if they did this vertical element out of that rock pattern,
Right.
at the bottom they would have maybe a horizontal planter to kind of give it a base.
Okay.
That might be something nice to just help the composition of the front door. It'll be interesting to see how you light this, whether you choose to use some ornamental fixtures or downlights or how you're going to do that. And then I'm assuming that that's maybe a frosted glass, might be a clip. I'm not sure what you're thinking there. And if that's the case, you might have, I understand, budget's always an issue. These houses, Santa Barbara, cost a lot of money per square foot. But I think there's an opportunity to maybe do something unique with this set of windows in the bathroom that would make this entry a little bit more special. Maybe it doesn't have to be a repeat of some of the other windows. It could be maybe just a little different treatment. So then I think that would really kind of make this front entrance really work nicely. And then I'm a little bit, I can kind of understand why you did this, but it's rather incongruous to the rest of the language that you've developed for the whole palette of the house. And in plan, if took me a minute to figure out what you were doing because I thought, gee, this is kind of an odd, squeezed corner. Having somebody walk out and then you have this kind of, it's almost like you want the balcony to do that. So I understand why you did this for view purposes, but maybe you could rethink that. The other, I'm assuming that the bed is going to go here. And the idea is you wake up, you can look at the fireplace, and you can look out at the ocean. That's the ideal situation. That's the bingo part of it. But I'm just not so certain that this really resolves itself well, both for the shape of the house, the external shape of the house, but also how it's going to be used on the inside. This is a nice size master bedroom. It's going to have a queen size or king size bed in there, and if you're like my wife, she wanted a little settee thing and a place for her antique whatever. So we had all this stuff going on, and I'm just thinking this configuration could be a little problematic for actually laying out the furniture. So I understand why you did it, but it just doesn't feel quite right yet. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Yeah, I think Fred brought up the items that I was concerned about. The angle there seemed a little forced. I don't know, at first when I saw the elevation and this is coming out, it's kind of a nice shape. This shape here. I thought, well, gee, it may be nice to make that a different material. And it would kind of, could be stone colored or something. But maybe the other board members, wouldn't agree with me on that. But it's fine otherwise.
Madam Chair, one thing I forgot. That's in the family room. Right. You might think about making. I'm just picturing that room as being dark. So you might be a little more generous with the glazing over there, and it's positioned in such a way that we're not worried about neighbors looking in and whatever. And it just seems like that room could be a little more generous in terms of natural daylight. So you might play with that a little bit.
I'm concerned that there's going to be too much.
It's south elevation.
Going to be.
It's a south elevation, but the other thing that you're going to be looking out onto a future swimming pool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of neat, cool. You could just maybe extend the roof out a little bit, so there's a shade, or you create a little trellis over it.
That's
or
a good
some other
idea.
element. I just think the room itself will be. I understand your problem. It's going to get hot. But I think if you shade it or come some other strategy, then the room really opens up to the backyard. Mm-hmm. And so maybe you don't need to be so stingy about the glass. But I understand it's a problem because then you put too much glass, you're going to heat it, the room gets hot, etc. So I understand.
Well, I'll chime in on that one because the first thing when I saw that, I thought, ooh, trellis over the top of this, this length, and with some nice vine over the top of it would really, really make this facade look a lot better, I think.
My wife would like that.
Yeah, and it would help that whole situation. Other questions?
I do actually.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I think there needs the two bathrooms here that you have on the first floor with the family room.
Let's go over here.
What was your reasoning to have access to the bathroom 3 and bathroom 2? You kind of made them you made bathroom 2 a Jack and Jill, but then you have bathroom 3 as kind of a public access too. I'm wondering if it'd just be better to put the wall straight across and somehow making this a private bathroom it just seems kind of redundant to have two public bathrooms, public access bathrooms on the.
We've actually gone back and forth a little bit about that, and it could use some more discussion. But
We've got lots of kids, and so bathrooms are
need to have those doors
a big deal.
available.
A big deal. And, I'm not saying that we're adamant about it, but we have 2 teenage girls and a little guy, and it's.
Reality says we're not supposed to worry about the inside plumbing.
I know, but that just struck me as kind of
Okay, anyone else have any questions? Yes, Jamie.
Just for selling point to the comment about the south windows, it would help you create a room for the outside and really define that rather than here's your house, here's your pool, to kind of envelop that. Nice.
And that's perfect because that's exactly what we envision is that if we ever could get to the point of having a pool, that we would have like the living room and open it up with a family room. And you'd have kind of this walk-through indoor-outdoor experience. But I think they're great ideas.
This is your opportunity to explore that.
Yeah.
All right, are we on to comments?
One question.
Okay.
I heard you say that you plan to leave the landscape alone, and are we planning to add anything? You have some wonderful triangle palms in the front and in the parkway as well, and I'd like to see you just do a little enhancement of the rest of it to bring it up to speed with the rest of your house.
I think as finances permit, that we would be doing that and looking at that. And we have a couple triangle palms already in the back that need to be separated and kind of some work done to them. But absolutely, I love the tropical feel with the pool, and the hill is something that was really attracted us to this piece of property because it just opens up to this great planting area.
Any other questions and comments? Any comments? I'll weigh in. I really like this design. I think you did a really great job with it, actually. It feels good when you look at it. It's not, and when they don't, they really don't. So that's a real good point in your favor because it's a good feeling plan. The elevations are nice. It doesn't look like an addition to me. It looks very, very nicely done, nicely seamed together. So I give you the compliments on that. And other than that, I do agree with the other comments that have been made. How do we want to, let's see now, are we in, well, we can take action on this.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make just a couple of comments before we take action, if I could.
All right.
I just would like to say I think that the design mostly seems to fit our guidelines and it's moving in the right direction, but I do want to make sure that we have, next time you come, evidence of nearby homes that are this large, 3,000 feet in that neighborhood on that street, just so we have that understanding. And then I think it's very important that we make sure that next time we talk to you that you tell us what type of windows, and everything is very high quality with details and trellis and all that enhancement, which will really make, because it's right now all we're seeing is just basically a more plain version, and I would think that it would be more compatible with our guidelines if it's got the enhancements.
Sure, and he'll have to do that to get final anyway. We'll need to see the details, so. Okay, does anyone feel like crafting a motion?
I have a question to staff. So we could give this project design approval with conditions or comments?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, I would move for design approval.
Okay.
For indefinite continuance to the full board, having the applicant come back and respond to the following. One is to, let's see if I can use
the elevations?
Yeah, the elevation. Let's start with that first. On the west elevation, study the bathroom windows and the entry configuration. Consider the possibility of a low planter, and certainly provide us with window types and door types and glazing types. Also on the west. What is that? West and east elevation, I guess it is.
Yeah, that's east.
Excuse me, no, west and south elevation, I'm sorry. Study the 45-degree angle door and window that comes from the master bedroom on the second floor. We studied that corner. The board would like to see further details and material selection on the actual railing around that deck off of the second floor. On the south elevation, on the first floor addition to the back of the home, the board strongly suggests the consideration of a trellis or roof overhang that shades glazing openings out of the family room, and would encourage the applicant to consider a much more robust window solution. The board would suggest that perhaps the 4 windows on the south elevation at the second floor, that they are the same size, so that the one in the walk-in closet matches the ones proposed over the new staircase. That the designer, this is, what number are we down to?
9.
8. So 8 comment is the applicant restudy the vertical window at the staircase that's immediately adjacent to the first floor wall. Yeah, I got the planter at the base of the entry. That at the next phase, the board will be wanting to see a color board, location of the colors and materials, color and materials board, any surface-mounted light fixtures. Obviously, we'll need to have the Tier 3 stormwater management program drawings available at that time. And let's see, what am I forgetting? We got materials, we got color, we got stormwater. Landscaping. And we would encourage the applicant to share with us what they might do to enhance the ground planting in the front yard. Is that good enough? Okay.
And then you're going to make the appeal findings.
I'm sorry. And so, having said all of that, we then need to share for the fact that we believe that the design that's being proposed is consistent in appearance and size with the adjoining neighborhood, that the size, scale, and bulk is compatible with neighboring homes, that the quality of architecture and materials appear to be satisfactory for this project. And I believe that's all we need to ask at this point. That's my motion.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll take a vote on that.
We'll second.
Second first.
And comments?
Bernie seconds.
Okay, I'll second. And yeah, I'd just like to bring up number 2 regarding compatibility is I would like to add some verification that the compatibility guidelines are met with other homes in this neighborhood that are this similar size or similar in size, bulk, and scale.
So are you looking for some photographs of
Photographs would be
other
great.
3,000 square foot homes?
In this vicinity,
Okay.
if that's okay with the maker of the motion.
That's acceptable to me. You're the one that seconded, so I assume it's acceptable to you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you have project design approval, and there will be a 10-day appeal period. Approval.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah. Send it on down the line. Okay, 2425 Cala Andalucia.
Yeah, I bet.
Calle. What I say? Calle Andalucia.
She knows what she likes. Yeah. Light's good.
2425 Calle Andalucia
Me too.
is a new item. It's a concept review. This is a proposal to construct a new 397 square foot second story addition to an existing 1,992 single-family residence, including an attached 425 square foot two-car garage. The proposal includes a new 268 square foot second story deck. The proposal total of 2,389 square feet, located on a 10,019 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District, is 64% of the maximum floor to lot area ratio. This is a concept review. Action may be taken if sufficient information is provided. This project requires compliance with Tier 2 stormwater management program prior to final approval. And Jim Zimmerman will be stepping to the other side of the table. And I must read the following statement.
Yes, exactly the same, yeah.
The State Fair Political Practices Act, Regulation 18702.4 B5, states that an official may appear before a design or architectural review committee which he or she is a member to present, explain architectural or engineering drawings which the official has prepared for a client. Mr. Jim Zimmerman is a sole practitioner and is using this exception, understanding certain limits regarding advocating on behalf of his client. Okay, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Jim Zimmerman, and I have Marty Bloom here, the owner.
Welcome. Thank you.
What I can start with is a aerial view, and this is the Bloom residence, and to the there's a two-story adjacent, and we have a two-story up here and a two-story here. Two-story, and these two stories right across the street. So if we look at the numbering here, be like 11 and 12. So we have a large two-story here, and so as we come up the street on the other side, we have two stories across the street. This is a two-story.
Number 13, that's not.
Yeah. And
7.
Number 7 is a two-story.
Okay.
And then I wanted to show you the difference in elevations. This house, it slopes up, which I'll show you on my drawing. And this is about plus 12. If we call this 0, this is minus 12. And then we get down to about minus 6, minus 7 to these houses here.
Okay.
So what I've done is I've refigured the second floor, so basically it just pushes up at this point and then slopes back down. And then by providing these gables coming out, I think they add to the looks of the house. Initially it was just one plain roof here, and the second floor really doesn't project. It projects up 4 feet at this point, and it's centered in the center of the house. So we have a gable here and a gable here. There's existing sandstone here, the existing tree in the front, which won't be touched. And this is some horizontal paneling, existing. This is all existing. Okay, this is the existing house, and we got the south elevation the west elevation, and the north and the east elevation. And this is the existing floor plan here. Maybe I could show you here. This is where the second floor is going. And I incorporated the gables into the second floor. So I didn't have to push out this far. I just added the gables to add looks from the front and made those usable inside. And this is a second floor deck. And it's 23 feet, 3 inches from the property line here, and 22 feet, 5 inches from that property line. 32 feet.
32.5.
Yeah. So you can see by the front elevation, the house to the west is a 2-story, and that slopes down. And this is elevation 306. So this is about 12 feet difference in elevation, finished floor to finished floor. Maybe we should look at the floor plan first. What I was able to do is I was able to incorporate the stairs in the gable. So the stairs start up at this point, and then it gets off at the second floor. It gets off at the second floor at this point, and then comes into the master bedroom. So this is the master bath, and that is also incorporated into the gable. So this roof slopes up, existing, and then this is incorporated into the gables themselves. The rear elevation, we have the deck here, and then we have stone columns that match the stone in the front. So that gives it a nice basis there. The west elevation, see, all I did was extend this roof up to this point, and then I put a hip here, so that the roof then comes back, and you have less view of the second floor from the street. And these are French doors coming out to the balcony. Then the east elevation is the same. This roof extends up, comes back, and then you have the gables coming out at this point. And this is an existing window, and the existing fireplace. Then by taking a section through it, you have the stairs coming up, you got the gable coming out. So by the time you get up here, you have head height, and then you come into the master bedroom at that point. It's about the 8th. Here's another example of the closest 20 homes, where this is the Bloom residence, and we got 2 stories within the closest 20 homes. And they are the 8th largest in the home. This is a picture from the balcony, the future balcony, looking over to the west side. And originally, and I'd say probably 80% of the homes up there have a chain link fence that divides the properties. And this owner put up a 6-foot high fence and basically took away the open view from the first floor. So they said, well, we want the ocean view, so we want to add a second floor. Do you have anything to add, Marty? No.
It's a 7-foot fence.
Okay. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
And I think we have some letters of support.
Yeah, we walked around to 10 neighbors.
Okay, I'm going to open this up for public comment. I have one request to speak from Karen Romofsky. Please come forward, and you can sit in either spot. Right over here would be great. And would you make sure that mic is on, please? It's on? Okay, wonderful. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, well, actually, even though we live right across the street, and we have talked to the Blooms about this, seeing the drawings actually puts a different spin on how our impression, the impression we had gotten. I think talking to Marty's husband, we were given the idea that this addition would be more to the west or to their upper neighbor's home, and I see it smack in the middle. And that actually we're probably the only home that this will impact the view. We don't have a huge view, but it certainly will make a dent right in the middle. So, yeah, and what we were thinking of, seeing if there were going to be story poles or something, but, I guess the peak of the roof is about 4 feet high, higher than the existing roof.
Yeah, could you show us your home here?
Yeah, I think it was hard to see your picture, but I think we were number 11. So our home is diagonally, we're across the street and up one, so we're diagonal.
So this is subject property, right?
What's your address? 2428. So we're this one.
You're right here.
Yeah, so view is like right that way.
And you have a 2-story as well, yes?
Yes, so we see, because of trees and everything else, we have a pretty good view from our upstairs window besides the trees. And we see right over the Bloom's rooftop. And we can see the islands and, portion.
So that's the projection right there.
Yeah, and so that's, our main viewing upstairs window would be up right above this, roof there and heading down.
Okay, thank you very much. Consider that. Okay, open it up to the board. Oh, yes, Michelle, staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to acknowledge we have received 4 letters. One letter from Paula Westbury, another letter from Paul and Jackie Miller, and let's see. Sorry, let me summarize this. They're in support of the project. A letter from Ruth and John Malengo at 2433 Calle Andalusia, and they're in support of the project. And from Gerald and Sharon Shepard at 2420 Calle Andalusia, and they are in support of the project.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and now we open up questions from the board. Let's start on this side. Any questions?
Questions? Well, I guess I did. I was just wondering about the window on the east elevation. Kind of throws me off. I was wondering why it would be different than the one on the west elevation at the second story.
Well, on the west side, they have a peak of the ocean from the corner. And so sitting in the room, get more of the ocean view there.
Okay, oh,
Because
so,
it's lower.
because it's lower, so I see. Okay.
Okay. All right, this one's Bernie.
Just what are the dimensions of the deck? I know it's 268 square feet, and this is not the back balcony, this is an additional deck, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 12 by 22.
12 by 22, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any questions?
On the doors opening onto the deck, what are they doors, windows? What's the
They'd
thought
be
there?
doors.
They all would be doors.
Mhm.
So French doors. or
Yeah.
something like that.
We haven't decided whether we're going to slide them.
And then there is an overhang of some sort, a couple of feet,
It's 2.5 feet, yeah.
over those windows on the south elevation. Okay. And then what's the material, that window on the dormer?
Right here.
Yeah, is the dormer that makes the master bath.
Uh-huh.
So what's the thought on the window material?
Well, it could be a push-out window.
But I mean, is it
So-
glazed? Is it what? I mean, what's the
It would be
glazing?
glazed. It'd be clear glazed.
Clear glaze.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it'd be a push-out window from the bottom,
Mhm.
so you wouldn't necessarily get a break up in the center.
So to get at that, you're pushing out
From the shower.
from the shower. Okay, so you have to either be in the shower or reach across to open it.
Right.
Okay.
We just still have the light coming in.
Okay, and then I'm assuming that the roof of the master bedroom is a cathedral ceiling type?
Yes. It'd be open trusses. Like
Oh,
this.
okay, I didn't see that.
And that's what's downstairs.
And then the rail on the deck is, what do you
It'd be
anticipate?
cable.
Cable?
Uh-huh.
Cable rail?
Mm-hmm.
And the columns, I'm assuming, will match the stone columns in front of the house?
Yeah, these would match the stone in the front.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Brian, questions?
I think you answered all my questions, Brad.
I asked all the questions you didn't answer.
Okay, how about comments? Let's start with some comments. Jamie?
I think this is, it seems to me that this takes into consideration, to a great degree, the size, bulk, and scale issue. I think having it centered in there gives a really nice nestled feel. I can see why you did that. And the dormers are great, and I can see where the back of the house it'd just be a joy to be in that room. And I was curious, this tree right in front here, is that an oak?
No.
Big California pepper.
California
It's the
pepper.
biggest one on the street.
So,
City Street.
it's a street tree.
Yeah, street tree.
Okay, so I know those can be laced out, and, I'm sure, we haven't seen photos of the neighbor that just spoke, but, I'm wondering if that tree can be laced out, if there might be some views too that they're not getting now that they could get.
The direction you're taking is very aesthetically pleasing. I think it's a good solution to the existing situation. I was out here, and this tree has been well pruned, appropriately pruned by the city, but, just being that it is what it is, it's going to get dense quickly. And, yeah. Looks good.
Okay. Bernie?
Thank you. I think that the design definitely meets our guidelines, and it fits the neighborhood. And my only concern is the size of the deck, whether that fits. Maybe it needs to be reduced a tad, But other than that, I think the architecture guidelines are met completely and beautifully.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Let's see, a few comments. I guess the window over the bathtub, think about what that window looks like at night when the light's on in the bathroom. Even though you may have covering over it, et cetera. So, I like the solution. I mean, the dormers are a really good way to do this. I'm just concerned that the privacy issues, maybe need to think that through. And then on the opposite side, the windows that face onto the deck, I think are going to be really cool from a design point of view, but it's going to cause that room to get really hot. And I'm just wondering if you ought to think about some kind of either extension of the eave or a trellis or some other method to keep the sun off of those windows.
Okay.
Because if you have them as sliders or French or whatever, I think they're going to be great. But I think it'll have a tendency to, that room is going to get really, really warm. And then, too, I'm a little concerned, just it's a design issue. The language of this window versus all the other windows is a little strange, I think.
Yeah.
And I realize what you're trying to do there in terms of view. But, maybe on this side of the house, if you choose to make these without window separations, that maybe the doors don't have to be that. Maybe they could just be traditional open French doors, and maybe the window on the other side doesn't have to be like that. That might be an approach.
Yeah.
In terms of the size of the deck, I think, Bernie, maybe one of the things that might help you is if we saw how furniture is arranged on the deck. Sometimes it's 12 feet, a little too much. Is 10 feet not enough to make a table and a chair work? How does that? Sometimes, we might sit here arbitrarily and say, oh, gee, you need to cut back the dimension. Yeah. But just kind of understanding that, convincing yourself that you can actually arrange furniture out there is probably a convincing argument in terms of the dimension. So I think that helps. Now, my last comment is going to go to the neighbor's concern about view. And I've stated several times on this board that under the city rules, we're not obligated to guarantee a view out of a specific window. The Constitution does not guarantee views. That's the way it works, at least not yet, unless they make another amendment to the Constitution. So, but in general, we are to be concerned about the view corridors of the general neighborhood, the general look. I think this approach, as everyone has already pointed out, is a good approach. It doesn't raise the overall height of the house more than the 4 feet. But one of the things I want to share, we've got a house that we'll be seeing again, maybe one or two houses we'll be seeing again on the next block, all part of this same development. And one of the interesting things is as the houses begin to change, more second floors come in, you start to look at this cascading set of lots that were developed when these houses were all built as single floors. And so you start putting on second floor elements. And so part of our concern overall in this board is where is the appropriate place to put that second floor? And in many cases, we're looking at applicants with second floor square footage, like this application here, where it's not pushing the FAR envelope. It gets down to a matter where do you actually put the second floor so that it doesn't impede the general view corridor of all the homes on this terracing set of homes. So given all of that, I would say that a way for us as a board to really start to understand the impact of these decisions as we see more and more of these houses wanting to have second floors, that I think in this particular neighborhood, given the nature of all these one-story houses now going to two-story houses, that we really ought to require story poles, even for this one where it's only 4 feet. Because I'm under the suspicion, given where the neighbor that just spoke, I'm visualizing that they're not going to have a problem with this. But they won't know that. We won't know that for certain until we see the story poles. So I'm thinking that's going to help this neighborhood. Because I think that if we look at other applicants, the applicant that we looked at several weeks ago that we'll probably see again, on the other block. I think if we start doing that consistently, the neighborhood will begin to understand that we're not arbitrarily making decisions outside of the context of how this really works in the whole neighborhood. So I would encourage us, whatever motion we make for approval, that we make story poles a part of the plan.
You know, I have to chime in here. I heartily disagree with you on that point, because this is only 73% of the required total lot area ratio. This is not pushing the envelope in any way, shape, or form. It's a very, very modest addition. I mean, it's only projecting 4 feet. This is not like a typical second story at all. If it were, I would agree with you, but I have to just go down on record as saying I think in this particular case that that's excessive to require story poles. But
Yeah, I'd like to comment. It's very modest.
well, hang on just a second, because we have to get the rest of the board to weigh in.
This window here, I agree with Fred. I think it should match this window. I know you're taking advantage of the view, but I think.
Yeah.
I think due to the vernacular of the architecture, they should match. It just would flow a lot better.
Okay.
And the other thing I'm kind of looking at is your master bedroom closet. I know this is an interior thing. Is awfully small. I'm wondering if you could somehow utilize the attic to expand your master closet without expanding your roof.
That's
Just
a
as
good
thought.
idea. Yeah.
But those are my only comments. As far as let me grab the right one. Story poles, I'll leave that to how we work that out.
Okay, so any other comments? I think it's a lovely design. I think you've minimized the second storiedness of it, if you'll accept that as language. It is very nestled in. It's extremely appropriate, I think, to the neighborhood as far as its style.
I would like to mention the Blooms wanted to put a gable here, which would project out further, and we could have done that. But we tried to get less of an impact, from the front. So we sloped it up both sides, and there's maybe 7 feet of width at that point.
So basically, the highest point of the house is only a 7-foot wide piece, really,
Right.
that's projecting up 4 feet above the regular roof.
Right.
So see, in a situation like this is why I think that this does not require story poles. I mean, that is so minimal. I've never seen anyone really handle it, a second story this way before. I think it's really smart. And I think it's very much in taking care of the neighbors. I mean, I know that it's a little, I know, I have to look it over. I just don't know how they could do it any better, honestly, as far as view mitigation goes. They've really bent over backwards. It's better than if they had gone the other way, huh?
Can I chime in here?
Certainly.
I actually see both of your arguments, I think, are very good. But if we just did 2-story poles with the thing, would that be too much?
For 7 feet. I just think at some point it becomes ridiculous.
I
don't
agree
know.
with you.
I mean,
But Fred brings up a valid point about it kind of brings the point of how this really doesn't impact the view. I don't know.
I'm looking at it from the entire neighborhood point of view. My position is that I think we as a board need to be paying more attention to this issue. And I hear your argument about this is a great approach. It's a minimal height. We're only talking about a few
minimal
feet
square
here.
footage.
But in essence, in this neighborhood, where we're going to be seeing a lot of these, I'm going to come down on the side every time, regardless of the minimal position, and maybe, yes, it's 2 poles and a little piece of tape. That's all we need to see. But I'm going to come down on the position that we need to go the extra mile and require a story pole. I think
Should we take a little vote on that
I
as
think it's
board?
important
See
with
how
this
everyone weighs in?
neighborhood.
All right, well, let's see how everyone else feels about it.
Well,
So,
I'd like to comment.
okay.
I'm sorry. The board just approved a full 2-story house with 700 square feet on the second floor with all 2-story walls.
Wow.
Now,
That's why
do we,
I'm saying what I'm saying. Okay, well, let's see how the board weighs in
Well,
since this is
may I
so.
make one point about this before we take a vote, is that people don't like to be surprised in any neighborhood. And I think Fred's suggestion is actually brilliant, and I think we should start doing it now for all the neighborhoods that are in transition, that there's several second-story homes going and the neighbors don't understand the drawings and it's too big, or maybe it's not. If they see the story poles, maybe it's okay. But if it's shocking, then, you know, I think we want to err on the side of charging not making the community not have us make a mistake by doing the story poles.
Okay, I think at some point, though, especially when you've got a real pro drawing the plans and it's really clear how it's going to be. I mean, I think he makes it very clear that there's only 7 feet worth of roof that's going to be 4 feet higher than the existing roof. That when you've got numbers like that, that's pretty darn clear.
So maybe
Okay,
this
so,
isn't the
I don't
one
know.
we have to do it
Well,
for.
but you know, I do also understand Fred's point and your point that you know we want to try to make everyone happy. But I mean, I think there comes a point if there were, and no offense, but if there was a sea of people out there that had this, that were complaining about this, then I might weigh in on the other end and say, yeah, okay. But, you know, I mean, we're talking out of the whole neighborhood. We've got one family who's expressing a concern, and I appreciate that, and it's a valid concern. I just don't see that it...
Could I say one thing about that?
Well, actually, we're not supposed to crosstalk here, but...
Yeah, well, the Shepherds have no ocean view.
Yeah, we need you to fill out.
No, we can't.
Do I need to fill out a form?
It's not really
Fill out a form because I'm not Karen. I'm Steve Romofsky. I'm Karen's husband.
Okay. Quick comment.
The people that are signing off and approving it are not the ones who are directly affected by the view. Okay, the Shepherds are basically a one-story home at the same grade level as the Blooms, looking right across the street. And the Millers are a one-story home that's up above ours, so they're looking over the top. So realistically, when you talk about people that are impacted, it's us and the Schmitz, and we have the lion's share of the view. All of our south-facing windows look over that roof to see the ocean. And yes, it is only 7 feet wide, and yes, it is only 4 feet tall. But when Joe explained it to me, what they were planning to do, he said we were going to go a foot above the ridge and we were going to be towards the east side. Now, granted, designs change, but that was the perception that we were given in a conversation. We didn't look at any drawings. Now we're looking at drawings and we're saying...
Okay, Madam Chair, you're starting to repeat.
I'm sorry.
And
We can't.
this thing.
And as it was explained, you know, I understand, but it isn't in our purview to protect views. We can't do that. And everyone, you had the right to put up your second story, and so did the Blooms.
Well, it was built that way.
Okay, well, but isn't it nice? So
It's one of the largest homes in the neighborhood.
yeah, so.
But it's interesting.
Okay. No, there's no more talk. Sorry. Okay. Let's. Well, now should we have a little vote on the story pole issue here for this property? Let's have a little vote then.
Okay, wait, let us think for a second.
Let's think for a second. Yeah, that's it. 1 second. Okay. Who here would like to have story poles put up on this property? Raise your hand, please.
I think just 2 story poles and just for the simple. I know.
Jesus.
Jim's
I'm
like-
sorry, that's just crazy. All right, so there'll be story poles with 1 string across the top to show the impact of this particular architecture.
Jim, I totally sympathize. I just feel that the previous project didn't have the same impact, and this is just...
So do we put this over here then?
No, you're going to put it right where you got it. No, we're not saying move anything. We're just saying you're going to put story poles right exactly where you've got this and string a 7-foot tape across the top so we can
Go
show
on the
everybody.
flat roof and do that?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, just go on the existing roof and do that. Okay. All right, then. So there we go.
Proceed with
So
making a motion.
let's make a motion here, and who would like to do that? And they're looking for project design approval. So
Madam Chair, typically, just to board members, when you request story polls, and it's typically something you do at a concept level, so I would just
Okay, so we
put that
can't-
out there to the board to consider whether you grant project design approval and are requesting story polls. That's sort of unusual.
Okay, so really then, we're standing in the way of project design approval for the story polls to go up. Okay. So, anyone want to retract that?
I didn't. Well,
Okay, never mind.
Having known that would have might have made a difference.
Yeah, well, too late now, I guess. Okay,
Is it?
so let's.
You haven't voted on it.
Yeah, well, the majority ruled on this case. There was already 4 hands up in the air.
Well, she's going to change her mind.
I'm retracting. Can I
So it's
retract?
3-3.
Yes, for motion to reconsider.
Okay, let's take a new
Yeah, it
poll.
was a straw poll, so it doesn't.
In favor of,
Can we phrase the vote a little differently? Like, can we try phrasing it that, does the board in general like the concept, but because this has just come up and we're just learning how it impacts the project right in front of us, and we think that this project shouldn't be the scapegoat because this is a good project
It's a
and
great project.
meets our guidelines, we just will keep that in mind for next time.
You say no story.
No story polls.
Well,
If
But-
it's going to
we
hold
took
everything
we
up.
took a straw vote. A straw
Yeah.
vote is not official. That just
Oh.
gave a sense of where we were
Sense.
sitting.
Uh-huh.
Anybody can make a motion. You can state what you just say. If we all vote in favor of the motion, the whole issue of the straw vote goes away.
Okay, so she's making a motion right now.
Oh, so we're not going to do this straw vote again? Okay. So, okay. All right. I'm going to make a motion to give this project conceptual approval.
Project design
Concept
approval.
Project
Project
design approval. Thank you. I feel that on the findings that it is consistent with the neighborhood and in compatibility, the size, bulk, and scale is within the neighborhood compatibility. The quality of architecture and materials, it looks great. And I think with the regard to the Good Neighbor Guidelines, I think that that's been a motivating factor in the way that they've designed the second story. We would like them to take a look at studying the window on the east side. We feel that the deck is proportional to what's going on with the rest of the house and fits just fine. And am I missing anything else?
I think that was pretty good.
Oh, and then I am not going to put story poles in there. Okay, that's it.
And, okay, and so, okay, any second to that motion?
I second that motion.
Lisa seconds. All in favor?
Madam,
Under
I'd like discussion, please.
Under discussion.
I just want to make a comment. Everybody sitting in this room are friends of mine.
Ah,
Okay? Back there, here, I've known all of these folks for a very long period of time. And I don't have anything against this project.
No.
I think it's great. I agree with all the comments. I think Jim has done a excellent job of, if we're going to have a second floor, this is probably one of the best ways to do it. But I'm really torn in voting in favor of the motion without the story pole issue. And the reason I say that, and it's different than the project that we just saw, because it's a different neighborhood. We had a different set of elevation changes. This neighborhood was all developed at one time, was a series of terraces. And I just think that as we move out in time and we start looking at all the homes that are going to want to put second floors, that if we don't act
consistently with all of the applicants in this neighborhood that it's going to make us very, very difficult for the time that we really do want to have story posts. So it's, in my mind, it's an issue of fairness policy for all the neighbors. And I'm sure our former mayor understands the political dilemma.
I know, I'm nodding my head with you like I'm
Of
some kind of
the
crazy
issue.
person here.
Of the issue. And so that's why I'm going to vote against the motion, not because I'm trying to be mean, and not because I don't like this project, and not because I don't appreciate the architect's approach, and et cetera. It's just that it's the principle of my position on this neighborhood and how we're going to deal with it in the future.
Or, as the seconder of the motion, we can modify the motion, no? We can't add on?
Not unless the
Not
Well,
unless the maker of the
The maker of the
motion
motion has to agree.
has to agree.
I don't think this is the project that
Okay.
needs story poles.
Okay.
I think you have a point about the neighborhood, but I don't think this is the one that needs to prove it.
Okay, so where are we here? So we have a first and we have a second?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. You have project design approval.
Thank you very much.
And I understand. What? It's too much. Oh, yeah, I need that one, actually. Jim, that sounds on the...
You drew all over.
Okay, so I'd like to adjourn
Unfortunately, no.
this evening's April 8th, 2013 meeting of the Single Family Design Board.